I said, you know what, son? I don't know if I can beat this guy because last time I faced him, he crushed me like a Coke can, you know? But I know I can't lose now. We've sold over 1,000 items and we've had one event. I'm biased, but we have the best clothing brand, period. We have the best logo. We have the best. I don't think anything is as cool as us right now. So if I know it's coming and I can't get away for it somehow, like, you know, diffuse it, I then just switch to let's fucking go mode. Like, I don't mean this in any type of disrespect. For me to even want to have this match, it's because he's lit a fire in me. Do you get what I mean? And I'm saying he beat me and he was the better arm wrestler. I'm also saying I don't think he can do it again.
Yeah, let's get started, man.
Let's do it.
Hey, you ready?
I am.
So, how do you want me to introduce you? Do you want me to introduce you as the Grippler or like Ian the Grippler Carnegie?
Sure, you could do, or Ian Carnegie, also known as the Grippler.
Also known as the Grippler, or formerly known as the Grippler, or still?
I'm the Grippler, yeah.
Still the Grippler.
Yeah. Hey, or we have the Grippler, Ian Carnegie here.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe get some wrestling music in the background.
Like Stone Cold legs mashing a glass.
How's it go? Like, yeah, we should. We'll do some music. All right. Yeah, I'll put a little. Hopefully, I don't get copyright struck or whatever. But yeah, man. So Ian, the Grippler Carnegie, hey?
Yeah, or the Grippler Ian Carnegie.
The Grippler Ian Carnegie.
There we go. Yeah.
There we go. So how you feeling? You feeling good?
Yeah. Are we actually going? Right?
We're live.
We're
live.
All right.
Yeah. So if we sound too dumb at the beginning, I'll cut a little bit of it out. You know, I'll edit it.
You know what? This is good. This is organic. People will know we didn't set this up. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I recorded the beginning part too, but probably not going to include that.
All right. Yeah.
But yeah, man. So like, I guess give me a bit of, because I know a bit of your origin story, right? Like I know kind of like where you came from.
Okay.
But like not really. Like I know also you have a family of a wrestling background.
I do.
You have a military background. Yes. Super high level arm wrestler.
Well, okay.
Well, yeah, I know you were, right?
Sure.
Yeah, because you were at one point like ranked like number 1 or 2 in Canada, right? Super heavy.
I think I was, 1 or 2 in Canada. I think I was as high as 5th or 6th in North America. At my very peak.
So who was ahead of you then at that time?
When I was 5th or 6th, it would have been, Devon, Travis, Tim Bresnan, Jerry Caderet, and I can't think of who else would have been, but I was right around the 5th or 6th mark, and I know Michael Todd was behind me at the time, so that's.
Oh yeah. Do you ever pull Michael Todd? Left-handed,
and I'm 1,000% against Michael Todd.
1,000%?
Well, I mean 100%. I'm 1-0 with Michael.
Okay, so you guys only had the one match. It was like in a tournament, or
it was the Tenacious 12 WAL when they wanted to, I guess, see who was going to make up that series. You know what I mean? And it was just my day that day.
So the Tenacious 12.
Yeah, it was a WAL event in Chicago.
Well, when was this?
2018, maybe 2017, around there.
Okay, so not that long ago then.
No.
Actually, we're almost to 2025.
Yeah,
I forget now.
And I went from being a strong younger guy to now like having diabetes, and I'm just not the same guy. But I'm working on my health, and things are it's under control now.
Yeah. Well, you're still looking good. You're still looking thick, hey? Oh yeah. Just so you know, I had to like change the camera rig to try to get Ian in frame here. He's too big, man. He's too big.
Not true.
No, I think you're the biggest guy on the podcast so far. No, honestly, I did have to rearrange.
You had Devon here. I mean, he's taller than I am.
Yeah, he's taller than you. But you take up more frame. Yeah, I know, I'm just saying. Yeah. But no, that one was it was interesting because we had it set up different because there was Jody, Devon, and then Matt.
Oh, I remember that.
And then I was actually.
Oh yeah, Matt Mouse was here
over
too.
Here.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I had to edit a lot though
because of Matt.
Well, no, it's because the way the mics were set up, and there's 3 of them. There's all kinds of like echo and feedback and stuff. I just wasn't set up for it.
F-bombs that Matt.
No. He was good.
Yeah.
No, Matt was great, man. Yeah, we chat. Well, I was a little.
He's a good dude. I like him a lot.
Yeah, Matt's a really good dude. Yeah, but we talked a bit about how the oil rigs work or the oil sands and stuff like that.
Yeah, I can't talk about that.
No?
No, because I don't know the first thing.
Okay, well, yeah, okay. But yeah, so let's go back. So did you start arm wrestling before you met Devon in the military? Or did you kind of start around the same time?
So I've always had an interest in arm wrestling. Okay. I looked at it as a way that I could show my peers that I was the strongest kid without hurting them. Right. So even in elementary, it was just on tables and stuff. And then I at a young age, I realized, man, I'm not just beating my classmates, I'm beating the next grade, the next grade. And by the time I was in grade 11, and at my time in high school, we had up to grade 13. It was called OAC, and it was a year to get you prepped for university. Do you remember that one?
I still had the OAC when I was.
Did you?
School.
Okay,
yeah,
so
did,
as a grade 11 student, I won the whole high school arm wrestling championships. Right, so beating teachers and everything, and I was skinny. I was a skinny basketball player. And no one could figure out why, but it was just, I was a strong kid. I had a wrestling background, amateur wrestling background. And I was one of those kids that was super active all the time. You know what I mean? So I didn't gain weight because I was always on the go playing sports.
Yeah. So you were in grade 11 and you were beating kids that I guess were up to 2 years older than you then.
Yeah, and there was no technique. It was just like a style they called turn and burn. So it was just inside, go like that, basically. You know what I mean? Turn and burn. And I had a good frame. I think my bone structure, even when I was skinny, it was noticeable. Like my wrist and my ankle joints were thicker than most. And and so no coaching. I didn't really arm wrestle again in a tournament until I guess I entered the Army. I was about 25, and that's when I met Devon. I won the Army, super heavyweight division or whatever it was at the time. And, I beat Troy Goodfellow, who was like the 8th strongest man in Ontario in the strongman circuit. So that was kind of a big deal because he was a lot bigger than me. He was like my size and I was like 250, at the time. And me 250, I look like I'm 210. You know what I mean? Like me at 250, I'm very, very lean. It's funny. So that was my first introduction to a real arm wrestler, which was like Alan Ford and Eric Roussin and Devon. So while I'm killing all these Army guys that don't know arm wrestling, and I didn't know either, it was just genetics of just, athleticism. That's when I realized that there was a whole different game to arm wrestling, and that I wasn't the cat's ass, and that there was actually people out there. Because Alan was holding me at center of the table, and I didn't really like that at all, because he was so much smaller than I was.
So how big was Alan at the time?
It was 190, maybe between 170 and 190.
Okay, and you were like 250. You're saying
250, and I that day. This is how athletic I was at that day. It was actually the last time I dunked on a 10-foot rim, and I have a picture evidence of it. And I know how much I weighed that day because I always tell people I was 25 at 256 pounds when I dunked the last one. How do you know? Because I have a photo of the day that I dunked, because what happened was after my buddy took a picture of it, I walked out of the gym and into the lobby, and that's where I saw the arm wrestling tournament. And I'm like, fuck yeah, I want to part. So I know how much I weighed because I had to weigh in. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So you're bang on.
Bang on 256 last time. And Devon kept saying, get bigger, get heavier. And of course, by the end of that month, I was like 275. And by the end of like 2 months, I was 300 pounds, and I never dunked again after that.
See, that was that. He was probably just jealous. He's like, oh, he can dunk, and I can't. I gotta get him big.
No, he could always dunk. As far as I remember, he could dunk. Yeah.
Yeah. So you started getting heavier. So you're around like 300 pounds, and then you started taking arm wrestling like serious, or before this even?
It's so funny. I went to the Battle of the Capitol, and that was where Devon was facing off with Tim Bresnan for the first time, and I entered the tournament, and I went up two matches and I was done. And it really bothered me. So I kind of was thinking to myself, I don't know if I'm actually good. Like, I don't know if I can actually do this, because there's a 45-year-old man on the side table named Yvon Clement. I'm 44 right now, so put it into perspective.
Okay.
Been in the game for 20 years. And this guy was 154 pounds, and I couldn't beat him. So here I am my whole life thinking I'm this genetic gift to strength and athleticism, and I can't beat a 45-year-old, 154-pound man. And it was just, so I actually stepped away for a bit, but then, I started talking to Dev. He's like, he was encouraging me. He's like, there's few people that I see that, I know could be good. Like when they just with the way they are, their bone structure, athleticism, intensity, all that kind of stuff. And he's like, you're one of those guys.
Yeah.
So then of course I was like, and then I started thinking I was going to be like, I really took my ego to the next level. I had a plan that I basically told the arm wrestling world that, I would in a year's time be a professional. In like 2 years time, I would be like, beating Earl and Mike. And then by my 5th year, I would be on par with Devon. I believed it with all my heart.
Yeah.
Didn't pan out, but I did get, by the time I was 5 years in, I started taking professional super matches in like the States and stuff like that. I got waxed by Donnie Underwood. And, I think we were at the time both number 8 in our respective countries, but, 8 overall in Canada versus 8 overall in the States, there was a big gap difference.
Yeah. So what's the date at this point here?
Geez, I'm really not good with that kind of stuff. I want to say 2009, maybe. I had a super match with Don Underwood, and I got in the sport at 2005. So basically, next February will be like my 20th year in the sport.
Okay, so it's been. So what's it? So you've been doing it for over 20 years, then, really?
Well,
realistically,
in February 2025, it'll be 20 years.
Yeah. How's that make you feel?
Old.
Because you're one of the OGs now, right?
I am, yeah. It's funny because like I still have heroes in the sport, and Mike Gould and Devon and different guys, Earl Wilson for sure, Troy Eaton, like guys like the studs in Ontario who have really helped me along the way. They were super instrumental in my development, and I hope that I'm doing the same for others. Like I hope that
for sure you are. For sure. Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. And so when you first started getting into arm wrestling, so you were in the military then too.
I was, yeah.
Right. So like how long in? So you retired, I'm assuming, like after a full 25 years, or
no. I did 16, I believe. But the thing was, no, sorry, I retired in 2016. What it was, I was retired medically. And so I was in the military a few years prior to this tournament. But ironically, I was always challenging people arm wrestling in the military, and people would say, "You're a good arm wrestler, but you're no Devon Larratt." And I had to hear this. Yeah, I had to hear this for 2 years before I actually met him. So I was in Afghanistan. I was arm wrestling U.S. MPs. Understand though, when I was in Afghanistan, I was skinny. Like
I've seen the pictures.
Have you?
I've seen the pictures.
I'm 220, but I look like I have HIV. Like I was super skinny. You know what I mean? My nanny actually questioned it when I got back. She's like, "Are you sick?" But I'm like, "No, nanny, I'm actually still overweight for my height, but I'm dense. Like even when I was skinny, I was just made of different stuff.
So at your lightest, then, how much did you weigh?
As an adult, I think I got ready for my jump course. I was about 215 to between 215 and 220. And
I can't picture you being that weight, because you at like 215, like the heavy. I've been 220 before.
Right.
I just can't picture you.
Dude, I was just I was abdominals, and I was really impressed with myself back then, But you know what? It just wasn't sustainable. My genetic makeup, like everybody's big in my family.
Yeah.
And so being big was kind of an inevitability. But I'm really happy that I knew that if I needed to do something, that I could lose the weight, and I had the dedication. I wanted to be a paratrooper. It was a kind of a prestigious thing at the time. Wearing the maroon beret really meant like you were, what I'm saying? And as a young man, you're 6'10" and bulletproof, right? And I just wanted to be part of that. And injuries and different things kind of derailed my my combat roles. I only got the one tour, and but you know what? I wouldn't trade it for anything. It was a great experience and led me to be the man that I am today.
Yeah. So how long was your tour?
Oh, it's just well, 7 months, but you get like a month off for what they call HLTA, so like just like a little vacation to decompress, come back to the family.
I've heard some stories on what people do when that happens.
No, I went home. I was a good boy. I had a wife and kid at the house, and so I came home. I didn't go to Thailand or anything like that. No.
Yeah, no, I know a lot of. Well, these guys are probably a little bit younger, more my age, but we're pretty close in age. We're not that far apart.
I'm 44. I'll be 45 in February.
Yeah, okay. So we're just around just under 5 years difference. Yeah. But no, I have a few friends my age that when they went, a lot of them were going to Australia at the time. Yeah, that was the big place.
Yeah. Well, it's close, right? And and Australia is like, it's a Western kind of country, right? So I could understand why.
No, so that's all. So you were in the military, you had a tour, and then I guess you were still competing pretty hard. And then did you like take it serious when you were still in the military, or this is like right after?
It was actually very difficult to, balance the type of military training. I wanted to get bigger, but as a light infantryman, it was a constant battle. I had to be fit enough, and I would get fit enough, but then the problem was with the extra weight. As soon as I got an injury, it compounded itself. Yeah, it was very difficult when you have extra weight to try to be like an elite athlete carrying all this weight. You know what I mean? So it wasn't the easiest time of my life, but I put 100% into everything that I did, especially with regards to my work, because the Army paid the bills. I had a young family at this point. I had 3 kids now, and arm wrestling wasn't paying anything, but I've always had the belief that it would get to where it is today and even beyond. I still have that belief.
Yeah. Well, you were part of some of the first like WAL matches too, right?
I was also part of the first Arm Wars.
The first one.
I'm professional from way back time, It was like I can't remember the card name. I think it was in Dusseldorf, Germany. I had 2 matches there at the FIBO Center, and it was on Armsport, which was not Armsports, Eurosport, which is like European TSN or ESPN, and under Neil Pickup, and I was really, and then I did Arm Wars in Vegas, and went to Vegas a couple times. And
I saw some of the Vegas ones. They did those on that rooftop, right?
Yeah, I did a UAL. I did the one where Mike Gould and Richard Lupvis had their big epic match. If you haven't seen it yet, it's a must see for any arm. Oh God, that is one of the greatest matches. It was a 3-0 win for either 3-0 or 2-0 or whatever it was, but they were just, the amount of pressure that was on that table that day was enormous, and it was very cool. 2 giant behemoths, locking up and going at each other.
Yeah. Well, Richard Lupke's, his proportions don't even make sense.
He's a big dude.
No, but they don't make sense, right? Like he's kind of like, he just doesn't look like, he looks like a cartoon. He looks like if you were to draw like a muscly cartoon dude, right?
I always look at it like, if Kratos was old, he'd be Mr. Lupke's. He'd be Richard Lupke's. Kratos?
God of War. Dude. God of War. Yeah. Actually,
do you see it now that I said it? Kratos, Richard Lupke's.
See, I think Richard Lupke, I think he's bigger though. I think he's got even bigger proportions than Kratos. Maybe.
But anyway.
Yeah. But no, I see the resemblance. Yeah, I could see it. So so when were the Arm Wars events? Were they around the same time as the WL was going on, or were they first?
They were first. Yeah. And then, Arm Wars, I don't know if they went away or what the situation was, but there just wasn't, the phone wasn't being picked up, or I wasn't getting calls or something. So I went off to do other things, and I started rebuilding my name. And eventually, there was these tournaments, these qualifiers around for Wall, and I started doing well. And then I, won the preliminary round, at the Tenacious 12, beating Travis Bagent and finishing ahead of Michael and Sean Latimer and Carl Stanley. Like, it was a pretty deep class. And then I think I finished 3rd left-handed that day. And then they made their selection for the season, and I was fortunate enough to be one of the guys to kick off that new super match series with the wall. And yeah, I really enjoyed it.
That was awesome.
Yeah, it was fun.
So again, I wasn't like watching arm wrestling around this time. So all the WL events, they were strictly on like TV. There was no like pay-per-view or anything, or
so before I got into the WAL, they were aired on ESPN.
Okay. So yeah, just regular cable then.
Yeah. And then when we got in, they got a deal with the Bleacher Report, which was a partner of TNT Sports, Turner Sports.
Okay.
Yeah. So we started airing on yeah, exactly. I can't honestly remember if it was pay-per-view or not, but I think they just aired it on Bleacher Report. I know I should know this, but I was too busy worrying about actually competing that I don't remember if it was pay-per-view or not. But I think it was just aired on Bleacher, or maybe you had to pay Bleacher Report or to get it.
Could be, yeah. Maybe it was one of those things where it was like a special cable package or whatever.
I can't honestly remember. It's sad, eh?
Oh,
getting old.
So no, that was awesome. So the first, like, I guess, who was your very first WAL like super match, like on the first event?
Okay. So my now understand at this point, my cachet is a little higher because I had done got some wins, but before this, my opponent had like next to no respect for me. I had faced him.
So who's the guy?
Well, I'm going to get there. Okay. So I had faced him at a Peter Milano event in Connecticut, and it was like maybe 3 or 4 years earlier, or maybe more than that. I can't remember, but he basically grabs me, center of the table, just crushes me, right? Like I'm a punk. He was actually insulted when they made the match for him to face me. It was Tom Nelson. Tom Nelson was a bad man back in the day. He really was, you know. And in fact, I remember Jody saying, like when they were watching it on TV, everyone was betting who was going to win, and she was like, "Tom's going to win."
Jody bet against you?
Yeah. Oh no! And I was like, "Really?" She's like, "Well, he's an accomplished arm wrestler, right?" And the story behind it was he really wanted to hype up our match. He was already pissed that he had to face me because he thought he was above me. So he started going online and he started making fun of me hard, crossing the line a lot of times. He brought some, I won't get into it because we're good friends now, but he started making comments about my child, about his weight issue. Like Liam, my oldest, has had a weight issue coming out of the womb. He's never known thin. Yeah. He's just a big boy, right?
Liam's huge, man.
Yeah.
He's like a football player.
Well, he was a football. He was semi-pro, you know what I mean? So he, if it wasn't for the leg surgery that he had to do where they cut his leg in half and put a halo on it, he probably could have played professional, at least CFL. Yeah. You know, he was gifted. Strength unmatched, like a guy who never hits the gym, just being able to push people, size helps obviously. But anyway,
just naturally just a powerful,
big, strong dude. Anyway, so, he said I was a bad dad because I allowed my son to be so obese. So he doesn't know our background. He doesn't know the situation. Liam had a couple of medical issues, and I said, you know what, son? I don't know if I can beat this guy because last time I faced him, he crushed me like a Coke can, but I know I can't lose now. So to add pressure to myself, I said, I'm going to have you front row to watch your dad defend your honor. Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's like movie shit.
I'm telling you. I got up there and, Tom was game, but he also had some issues in his life right now. I think his dad wasn't doing well or whatever. So he might not have been on his game, but I remember being so calm before that match. I was in the green room just watching the matches before me. And I'm like this, I'm like, my arms are back. I'm on the couch just chilling. And the guy comes in, he's like, "You're good. You're on next." I'm like, "Yep." Then he goes in the other room and he tells me this after, and he says, Tom Nelson's got his headphones on and he's pacing and he's rocking out and he's all pumped. And I'm like, yeah, I had prepared so well that and I had a mission. I was on a mission. He was there to win. I was on a mission. And yeah, my, the matches were, how do I put it? I'm on a 1-3-0. They weren't flash pins, but they were controlled wins by me.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of them might've been called high. It was very close. But I'm not going to argue with the refs if they gave me the win, right? Like, you know what I mean? And I look at it, it's debatable. But even if it was a high pin, I would admit to it. I don't have a problem. It's not my call. You get what I mean? Like I can only do what and it was an inevitability because I had him over and the shoulder hadn't even come in for the press yet. So if you're this close where it might be a considered a pin, the next step is just to come on top, and I would have got it.
Yeah. Were you considerably bigger than him at the time?
Oh yeah. Well, he was big. I think he was the heaviest he'd ever been at that point. I mean, I think he said he was 260. Normally, I think he was like 240.
Okay, so he's a lot bigger than I thought because I've seen
Oh,
pictures
he's
of
taller
him.
than me.
He looks like he's like 220. So I would ping him at.
Then. I mean, he knew he was going against me, right? And obviously, I was better than the last time we pulled, and I was bigger. I was like 369. I was a big, and
like big show numbers almost.
Show.
Eh?
And I wouldn't have been able to get behind this desk. I don't think. Yeah, because I was, I'm like 340, 350 now. So I had another 40 pounds basically.
Yeah.
And and it was good. We hugged it out after. Everything was cool, and we remained friends after that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, man. That's awesome. They should make a movie about that. Because that's like the whole
short film, maybe.
Yeah. Well, no, because that's like the whole hero arc, right? Like the guy beats you, and you're like, bring your son in for the revenge match, and then you crush him.
And they allowed me on the after interview. They said, "Hey, you want to bring your kid up?" I said, "Come on stage." So Liam, 16 years old or whatever he was, he's really proud of dad, and he got, they interviewed him a bit. He's like, "Yeah, I'm really proud," or whatever it was, And we had a bonding moment, and he knew that I was on a mission for that.
Dude, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Can I watch this online somewhere?
Of course you can. Go to YouTube. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna watch that match when we're done here. I'm gonna check it out.
Cool.
Make sure you're not making stuff up. Eh?
I'm quite the fibber. That's my reputation.
Yeah. So so you were in the WAL, and then I guess how many matches did you have then? Because you had quite a few, no?
No. I started getting some health issues. But I got one other one, and it was Mike Aiello. There was plenty of talks. I was supposed to arm wrestle. I think we talked about Nick Zena. I think there was what's the other one?
Nick Zena. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, great arm wrestler. We did a side pull table thing. We were about 50-50 at the time, and so we thought it made sense. I don't know if Nick ever was told this or not, but anyway, and then there was Sean Latimer. I think people wanted to see me go against Sean because Sean actually had my number. I've never beaten Sean. I finished ahead of Sean in tournaments where he gets bumped out before I got to him. But yeah, he just had my number, and I think the day of the Tenacious 12, I would have got him, but he didn't make it to me. So I'm not trying to throw shade. It's just the way it was, right?
No, that's all. Okay, so I guess so after the WAL, so were you still in the WL and the WL kind of faded away?
Yeah. And they were really trying to make a league, right? So they were building up to their championship, and they involved me. I mean, I got to go with Devon to arm wrestle Shaq and on TNT inside the NBA, and flew us to.
That's the first time I actually saw who you were.
Really?
Clip. Yeah, I was over at Devon's place one day. This is when Devon was first introducing me to arm wrestling, and he'd show me. Actually, the first time I met him, he was telling me to look up arm break videos for whatever reason and just devastate me. But no, the first time Devon started introducing me to like arm wrestling and stuff, he was showing me a bunch of random stuff, and that was one of the things he was showing me was that whole interview with Shaq and how you and him were essentially up there pulling Shaq, and he was saying that. He said that Shaq was probably one of the most naturally gifted like arm wrestlers or whatever, or he had the potential. He had a lot of potential, I guess, right?
Shaq's scary. I was arm wrestling Devon earlier that day, and Devon doesn't really tire, as you know. My left I don't think, I mean, I've had a few events where I would consider it a pro level, but for the majority, I've had too many injuries with my left for it to have been consistent. And that day I had a couple pulls, and my arm was pretty tired, but certainly when I got gripping up with Shaq and I thought I would just do the old, give him the old top roll and his hand didn't go, the only option I had if I wanted to win was to really try and wrap my leg and go in for a shoulder press or something like that, which I wasn't willing to do to Shaq, who doesn't know how to defend himself.
Could you imagine on live TV? You snap
That's exactly what I was thinking, and that's not how I want to get famous, right? So I did the business. Yeah. I did the personal devastating thing for me, which was take the L. But you know what? At the end of the day, Shaq was able to, not have a broken arm, and and the other thing too is, it would have made me look silly. Think about it. I was stressing out as a professional arm wrestler, trying to beat a non-arm wrestler. It would have looked really bad. Yeah. So, things happen for a reason. Then when I pulled him right, I think I did hurt him because at the end, I'm very controlled with him. I understand now I had to take him in a different way. And, I knew his strength, but there was a tremendous amount of side pressure, right? And then when I pinned him, he stands up and he grabs his arm, which my heart just went right through my, for a split second, because I wasn't sure if there was a tendon issue, bicep, whatever, right? He shook it off. It seemed like he was okay. And
so was Shaq still Shaq at the time? Was he retired then?
Oh, retired, yeah.
Okay.
But still a freak of nature.
He's huge.
Yeah. And he's much fitter than the camera portrays him. For some reason, he's much more fit.
Yeah, you ever seen pictures of like him and his wife beside each other?
Yeah. They're pretty funny.
Dude, it doesn't make any sense. It's like he's like this, and then like
yeah. No, Shaq. I'm of the opinion that whatever Shaq wanted to do in any kind of a physical nature, no matter what he might have not been able to do a horse jockey, okay, but everything.
They got those big horses. They got those big horses, man.
I think at the end of the day, he really could have done whatever he wanted to do. He's just that much of a freak.
Just a freak, total freak.
Yeah.
So anyways, we had the arm wrestling match with Shaq, and then how much time was between then and the first major arm wrestling league, or Major League Arm Wrestling, MLA?
You mean my event?
Yeah.
No, you're not talking about Mac.
The first
MLA. Okay, so that was years before.
Oh, because that was before that even.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
okay.
If you ever watched that really controversial match between Devon and Tim Resnick, that was under my old banner, Major League Arm Wrestling. And it went 7 rounds. It was the first time anybody had incorporated an 8x8 pad, and it wasn't giving Devon any favors because Tim had that extra inch to come back, and he was really utilizing it, and we had a running foul system, so it was sort of new, and I had adopted that from my Arm Wars days, and I thought, I liked it, but so the referees might not have been the right referees for that style of arm wrestling because maybe they made some mistakes or whatever. But at the end of the day, both gentlemen left everything on the table. It was super good. You could say Tim was a stronger man that day. I would say he was a stronger man. Devon, at the end of the day is Devon, and he perseveres through all kinds of adversities. You know what I mean? Yeah. And but he certainly wasn't the stronger guy that day. That was clear. But with all the restarts and I think it was a 3 foul system or maybe 2, I can't remember. But with all the restarts and the more Devon touches you, the more he wears on you, right? So
when he takes a little bit from you,
I
feel like every time he takes a little bit.
I think Tim was really smart that day too. Like he had come to win. Like I give Tim Resnick all the credit in the world, and there was really no loser that day.
Yeah, no, that was a good match. So was that the only event you did?
I had a smaller event, just a proof of concept kind of thing, and it was just like a regular tournament, and and then that was my first big one, but my last one, I lost out on significant investment on that. The video was supposed to get packaged up. We hired a film crew, and it was supposed to be sold to Shaw Cable Company. And then if it was a banger, if they got good reviews on it, then they would start funding my next events, right? Which was amazing. No, you know, that I couldn't believe that. But someone filmed the event with a cell phone. And by the time I got home, there was already 56,000 views, and I couldn't sell that product anymore because that was higher than the projections that they would have got on TV.
Yeah.
So
that's the interesting thing, right? Because we kind of went through this phase in sports where there was like, you know, pay-per-view and like televised stuff that was like you had to pay for it, right? Like through special cable channels, whatever. And then as soon as like high quality cell phones were introduced, it kind of screwed things up a little bit, right? Because now people were recording NBA games and, you know, fights and all kinds of stuff. And the value of, yeah, like you're saying, right? Like as soon as that stuff goes online, especially if it gets really popular, it kind of devalues the product, I guess, right? That you're going to sell. So,
yeah, it was a tough time in my life too. I, you know, kind of went in a little bit of depression. I didn't have all the money in the world, and I really put an investment in there. So I just couldn't rebound in any kind of timely fashion, you know, but I always had a table design in my head. I always had a way I thought the league should be run. And over the years, I refined those rules, and I got some tips, and I took a little bit from this league and I took a little bit from that league. And I thought, you know what? I like all these best qualities, and I just mash them together, and I'm like, this is the product. That's kind of like what I'm doing now with Mac. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I remember, well, I guess Jody was the one who introduced us really. Well, we'd met before that, right? We met at like a couple of practices or whatever, but then,
but I didn't remember you. Like I knew that we had seen each other, but when she's like, you need to link up with,
hey, big time me.
Yeah, I did. I big time. But I was like, oh, if she's recommending, like, I love Jody. She's been like a big sister for me for many, many years. And, you know, she's one of those people that will let me know when I'm being a dick or doing things incorrectly. And so I respect her. And if she says, you know what, if you link up with this guy, I think the two of you could really do something together. And since day one, I said, okay, because I trust her. And then I met you and I trusted you. And man, we're doing big things.
I think so, man. I think so. I'm so pumped. I'm so pumped for the direction that Mac and stuff's going. Yeah, Jody introduced us, and then we just started talking or whatever, and then you started showing me the concepts of the table that you're working on. And I think it was the very first one that you showed me that was kind of done with the, you know, the black. Was it black on red? No, yeah, it was black on red, right? So the pad was red, the table was black, and it had like the spidery legs, you know, like I think those legs are where it's at.
Yeah, cool.
I think so. Just because for me, when I put my leg on the side, for whatever reason, it just feels really natural. Like the angle that it's at, just where my foot happens to be positioned. And then when I came down to Kingston and kind of check it out at that one practice, like right away I was like, yeah, this is cool. Like this is different.
And what was funny about that meeting too is you liked the table, and you were totally willing. You weren't gaslighting me. You were actually like, yeah, you got to change this because people can do that. And he totally ripped into it. I didn't like it initially. I was like, motherfucker, this is a 12-year-old.
It's because you big time me, right?
Yeah,
That's why.
Yeah, I big timed you. But then I was like, motherfucker. But then I got to thinking about it. You know what? He's right. And so that's when I stopped being married to my ideas and just was like, okay, I opened it up to people, and it kind of kickstarted my going to clubs for people to try it and give me feedback. And then I kept refining. And to be fair, we're still in that process. We're very close to our final product, but if someone comes up with something better, let me put it to you this way. I just want to be on the side of right. What is the best table that we can have the best arm wrestling experience? Whoever comes out with that table, I will make my league that. But currently, even with mine not being a full total package yet, and I think it's way better than mine right now. I think it's way better.
Yeah.
You know, and anyone that's actually played on it, that, you know, got either practice or a match on it, has told me so. And now if there are people, if that's an incorrect statement and there's someone that doesn't like it, well, they haven't made that clear to me. You know?
Yeah. And it's interesting, right? Because like when you started showing me the Mac table, I started kind of looking around a little bit and seeing some of the older tables. Like I was just doing a bit of research just to kind of see what was out there because I'm pretty new to arm wrestling still, right? And I seen a few things. I saw the donut tables, right, with the rings around. I saw some ones where the pads were right in front of each other, and then obviously the more modern ones where the pads are scattered. There's the ones that kind of go back a little further. And in my opinion, I like the idea of just being able to move all the way from both side to side. And
within the 10 inches, you mean?
Yeah, well, like being able to move the same distance as the other person, right? Because the staggered pads, it's like when you're trying to really go over, if both of you guys are on complete opposite sides, right? Or if one guy's further, his arm's further over. I don't know. There's something about not being able to move further and being stuck there. I just don't like the idea of it. Yeah. I really like to be able to.
There's a ton of advantages, I believe. First of all, I don't think straight canted pads alleviated any kind of danger. I think even if they would have kept the straight across pads, I think that was a better thing. I just believe that the bigger surface is actually safer. People say, "Oh, how do you know that?" Well, look at the opposite. If you make the playing surface even smaller and your elbow has less room to move, then it really increases your chance of breaking your arm, right? Imagine if you could only just statically move, like, come on, So obviously if as pads got bigger, less injuries. So, a 10x8, we've had, 1,000 matches, like between actual competitive matches and matches like people just doing it at practice. And we've had 0 significant injuries, like nothing as much as any kind of like tendon tears or anything, like no broken, nothing. Yeah. Knock on wood. And I hope it continues. And I don't think there's a table out there that can fully prevent bad positioning and stuff like that. But I think I like our track record right now.
Yeah. No, I think so. And realistically, I think you were the one who said it first. It's a combat sport, right? At the end of the day, like if you look at like Muay Thai, for example. Like Muay Thai, you're allowed to grab somebody by the head and you're allowed to knee them full on in the face, right? Like nothing that's going to happen on that table is going to be to the level of like bad compared to that, right? So it's a combat sport. So at the end of the day, if you're putting yourself in a bad position, it's up to you to get out of there.
Right? Bad things can happen. The other thing too, I really would like to invest in women's arm wrestling. I think we have the ability to. So when you talk to people about combat sports and women being in it, people want them to have opportunity and stuff, but nobody really likes to see. I mean, I shouldn't say nobody, but there's a large support, like population out there, don't like to see beautiful women getting their faces all messed up, right? But they like the combat side, like the fierce. Women get on that table, they're screaming, they're yelling, and they're competing in a combat sport that doesn't touch their face, doesn't give them head injuries. So I really think that's an angle that we really, we need to get more women doing the game.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, because it's a sport that allows you to be at a certain level of aggression, right? Which is healthy, with like what you're saying, without like the permanent damage and stuff like that. And regardless of what people say, like, most women are just built leaner than men, right? Like bone density is not as much. So like the damage to the face, it ends up being worse, right? And I think that's the thing that some people just feel a little bit uncomfortable. I think it's more normalized now, right? Because obviously you don't have men fighting women, but I feel like the women that have that aggressiveness in them, I feel like it's a better outlet, if that makes sense, right?
No, 100%. And I also think that with the sports being, like sports in general being more normalized for females, I think it's inevitability that we'll have some women that will gravitate to our sport. Plus, we have some female heroes out there. You look at Heidi, you look at Sarah, you know what I mean? Like these are women that you can just say their first name and we all know who we're talking about.
Well, they have another match again.
Yeah, see that? Yeah. I'm excited for Heidi and Sarah. And Jocelyn's a big. You want to know something? On our last event, and I'll get to explaining why I say our event when I'm referring to Matthias is because he's actually my business partner now. He's Mac, and I love having you on. And I think that I couldn't done any of this without you. So I just little segue there. But in our YouTube page, our most viewed match has 15,000 views, which is it's decent, but it's actually Jocelyn and Heidi's match.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The female match, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of it has to do with how Jocelyn beat Sarah, right? Like right before that. So there was a couple of people that were talking about her, right, leading into that match. And then Heidi was the last one to have a match against Sarah she the last match before?
I can't remember, but I know that Heidi came off a major win against Anna at the AWC, and it was one of the best matches of the year. Those two women almost died on that table. Like they did everything, and so there was a lot of people that thought Heidi would win that match, and I wasn't sure. Like I certainly didn't think, oh, just because Jocelyn beat Sarah Bachman, that means she's going to walk all over Heidi. I never thought that at all. I just wasn't sure where Heidi was in her training. Do you get what I mean? Because we kind of, turned, there wasn't a ton of time for Heidi from when she said yes to when the match happened. So I really appreciate her for accepting that, and she's always welcome back. And if she ever wants a match back in with Mac, we'll do our best to find her an opponent. Yeah. But it's not easy when you're that good. Like there's, Sarah Wilson. Like I love Sarah Wilson. I think she really loves Mac. It's difficult to find her a match though. Like there's only so many top dogs and this is why we need to get more exposure so more females jump on board. And
I think I guess Jocelyn, she's got a powerlifting background.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I feel like the women that are going to come in that are going to really be strong at arm wrestling, that's probably the group that you have to steal them.
It's from. Like that American girl, that Danielle girl. She does strong woman and powerlifting, and she's always it's not just arm wrestling with her.
Oh right, yeah, dude, she's great. Yeah. She's awesome. Yeah.
And she's really coming on, and she came up to Canada for a small little tournament, and she had a mohawk going, and really good personality, And
we should try to get her on a Mac card.
Hey, listen, I'll reach out to her and see what's up.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's do it. Since you made the suggestion, Yeah,
there we go. We're making the next card.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of working on a date, I guess, too, right?
For Mac 2? Yeah, it's looking like December 21st, but I'm just waiting on the confirmation with the venue and our main sponsor for this. Yes, people, we finally got a main sponsor. William Paul, great guy. He has several businesses. He's an entrepreneur out in Nova Scotia. He's a native Canadian, and he is an amateur arm wrestler, really close to bridging that gap between high-level amateur to low-level pro. He's right in that, and he wants a match on the prelims. And I said, hey, man, you're paying the money. This is your event, you know what I mean? So I'm just here to help use my connections and help facilitate the best event we can do, and try to make it reasonable. You know what I mean? I don't want to be a poor steward of his money. You know what I mean? But at the same time, there's expectations that we have. There's a certain level of competition that we're trying to aim for. Yeah, and even in our prelims, it's not just just because you've been arm wrestling for a while, we're going to put you in there. Our prelims are geared towards guys that might not be at the pro level, that are, ready to make that next step and be in front of the big lights and camera, and as a feeder system, and I don't care what age you are. It's just, where's your level and how much value can you give us as a professional, or are you entertaining? And so that's what the prelims are for.
Yeah. And getting guys that are just good matches together, right?
100%.
Like Dakota and Matt, for example, right? Well, that was a great match.
It looks like they're confirmed for a rematch at Mac 2. It was such a good match. I just said, hey, do you want to run it again? They both agreed.
Yeah. No, I'd say that was one of the top matches at the first MAC event. Like those guys really went for it.
Yeah. There was a few, for sure. Rick Heidebreck and Josh Bellin was up there. Even though it was 3-0 Yannick and Dave Morocco, every match was a banger. It was just, Yannick was 2-3% stronger, and they both had good gas tanks, and that's what happens sometimes, unfortunately. There was a lot of very, very competitive, it was funny to see Jason Constantini win left 3-0 against Jason or Sean Crowther, and then Sean Crowther go and beat him, or vice versa. They both got 3-0 on each other, so they kind of both took a bite of each other's ass, if you will. But the trash talk and the emotion that was behind that was really cool. And Alan Ford and Brandon, even though their match was 3-0, every match was a banger.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And
really good too.
And Alan Ford and RVJ fought last weekend, and Alan got 2 wins. I haven't seen the match yet, so I don't want to speculate too much. But I mean, we're looking at having an RVJ and Brandon match at MAC 2. It's not confirmed yet, but I'm talking to both of them, and they both want to pull each other. So Brandon kind of went 3-0 against Alan, and RVJ went 3-2, so that might be closer than people think.
Yeah. No, and I think it's a good match too. And I think RVJ is he's really active right now as well, right? Like he's trying to get I think he's in 5 this year, right?
Yeah, no. And he's a good guy, and he's fun to be around. And I'm going to see him this weekend, actually. He said, shot me a text, said that he's going to try his best to get to Knuckles Up. So, we're going to see him. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know what? That's a good segue. Let's talk about the Knuckles Up event.
Oh, yeah. I love Knuckles Up.
Yeah.
I love those guys.
No, those guys, you know what? I'm going to pull up the matches here just because that way I don't forget which ones which ones are there. But in my opinion, so I talked to a few people about this. Some people argue a little bit. I think that Knuckles Up has probably the best production right now.
Okay.
I think, especially North America. So I think right now, North America, for sure,
yeah,
they have the best production. And I think in a lot of ways, they're probably better than East versus West right now too. In some aspects.
All I can tell you is when I went there, I was blown away with the venue, their level of production. They had similar issues that we had, like getting going. There was technical gremlins and all that stuff. But with the lights, camera, action, the sparklers, the looking professional, the jerseys, everything was done. I knew I was at a professional sporting event when I was there. East versus West, when I was there, it was pretty overwhelming as well. We had 1,000 people in the auditorium. There was lights, there was camera, there was smoke. It was the Devon versus Levon. So maybe that was a better one than the other ones. I can't really speak on that because I only been to.
That was the big one, right?
Yeah. So I'm not gonna shit on either promotion or say who's better. No. But I'll tell you this: East versus West is making it, coming over to North America, and they're doing good things like what Chance Shaw did. But as a staple, I'm glad that Knuckles Up is here promoting North America. Well, trying to get world international pullers and stuff like that, but they are homegrown. Yeah, we're in Canada, they're in the States, but you know what? That's an invisible border. Like we're going to be there, it's essentially right around the corner for us. You know what I mean?
And it's what is it, 5 hour drive?
5-6 hours,
6 hour drive?
Which in arm wrestling terms is close. It's local.
Well, yeah.
But
yeah, if anybody wants to come see us, Knuckles Up
the whole
Saturday.
Team, the whole MAC team, all 4 owners will be at MAC, and just come say hi.
Yeah, but no, I think, well, I don't want to get too much into the drama side of things that are going on, but at the end of the day, having multiple promotions that are kind of striving to be not the same thing, but striving to be like at a certain level, it's a good thing, right? Especially for the athletes, because like I've heard a few people say like, oh no, you only need to have East versus West, nothing else. Well, arm wrestling, it's not at that point yet where like a monopoly can cover everything.
I don't
right?
think Monopoly is good at anything. To be fair,
Yeah.
open competition is great. And, I don't look at Knuckles Up as competition, but obviously in some way we are, but, we work so well we literally talk to each other based on, dates and stuff like that. I try not to conflict with them, and they were really nice. Like they gave us VIP seating because we changed our date. Like who does that? They could have just said, fuck you guys. You know what I mean? But no, they were like, you know what? I appreciate you. Cause we were both doing pay-per-view events and we changed our date and, we recognized that they were more established. This was on Mac 1 and and I didn't want to hurt them because I didn't want to take any kind of cred or money out of their pockets, right? Because I might be an athlete on their card. We've talked, they're interested in me competing.
You should.
I would. I absolutely would. And I would love for any of them to want to come over to us. And Chris actually came with his wife and was in the VIP section at our event. See what I mean? And so like all, high tides rise all ship. And I think, having a multitude of different styles of arm wrestling and professional leagues is just getting more eyes on the sport. And I think it's just great for all of us.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think, and again, having multiple organizations like MAC and like Knuckles Up, all it's going to do is it's going to get more people into the sport. It's going to create new athletes, and it's going to create more avenues for athletes to go to different levels, right? Because in every other sport, there's multiple tiers, right? There's UFC in fighting, right? They're kind of the cream of the crop. Mm-hmm. And then right just a little bit underneath them, you have things like Bellator and One. And then underneath that, you have like all the other farm leagues and whatnot, right?
I'll tell you, for anybody that may think that MAC isn't quite on par yet with those other leagues, and that's fine. You can have that opinion. But what I would say is anyone that's been involved with MAC has voiced their opinion to me and has said it's amazing. Okay. But furthermore, right now, I might be speaking out of turn or maybe incorrect, but as far as I know, there's 3 leagues in the world that exist today that have a league, have a production company, and a pay-per-view platform. And those 3 leagues, to my knowledge, are KOTT, East versus West, and MAC.
Yeah, there you go.
You know what I'm saying? Like we have a camera crew. We have like all the like audio and visual that we would need to do a professional production, and we've increased substantially since last time.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And our pay-per-view platform, because PremStream and Mac, like you're an owner of Mac, and obviously we're bouncing, we're helping each other grow, and I think that's a substantial advantage when we're talking about trying to get high quality professional matches out there to the public.
Yeah.
To have that as an asset. Wouldn't you agree?
No, for sure. Yeah. And the big thing about PremStream is anybody can have their matches on it. Right? Like there's no exclusivity. Like anybody who wants to kind of take the pay-per-view route, like that platform's open to everybody, and it can do pretty much anything that any of the other platforms do, right? And we're working 100%. On a lot of super cool tech with it. So
yeah, like we're PremStream is the pay-per-view platform for Knuckles Up this weekend.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that you're exclusive or PremStream is exclusive to Mac. It's just that anything that Mac is doing, because you're an owner,
part of it.
We're tied together, right?
Umbilical cords.
Yeah. Well, there you go. And like I said before, when we started this, I said, I would never try to take money out of your mouth or stunt the growth of PremStream. The better. So if, there's a priority, say a mixed martial arts event comes up, you're going to get big money for it. That becomes the priority.
Yeah, and all tides rise together.
Right. But we would work our dates around that so that you could, get that cash cow, then move on. You know what I'm saying? So that's why being a partner with you has been so seamless, because we work well together.
Yeah, no, I think you're a great dude. I think everybody on
Let's
the team
not forget
awesome.
that we also have JJ Jackson and Andrea Johnson.
Yeah.
Andrea is my spouse, and they've been invaluable. And, I love my spouse very much, but she's been great, and without her, I couldn't even. It was her idea for me to start a league. When we first watched the first East versus West, she actually planted the seed and said, Ian, we could actually do this together and start a league. And I was like, no, I was like totally dead against it because I told her about what had happened to MLA. And I'm like, I'm really not interested in dumping a bunch of money into something that's going to fail again. And she really worked on me and has given me the confidence to go. And she obviously is a chartered accountant and does marketing. So we have uses for her other than just being a cheerleader. You know what I mean? And then JJ is he's a businessman. He's an entrepreneur. He understands. He's well liked in the community. He's American. He has venues for us, and he's at arm wrestling events, preaching Mac everywhere, every weekend. That's a huge asset. Yeah. So I love everyone we're working with, and now we got William Paul, who's a sponsor, but he's also on the board. So he gets to have input on vote or whatever next steps are, and so as our board grows and we get better assets and more money, I'm telling you, if you're not a believer in Mac, I promise you will be.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing too, is once you have an event, right? Like as soon as you have your first event, and you have to do it within limited resources. People who are willing to put money in and sponsor events and want to get their brand signed, like people are more willing to get their brand attached to you because they see what the product looks like, right? Like before you have a product, it's really, really hard, right? To get this stuff, because we're working with a bunch of different sports now that have tried to do like pay-per-view events. I don't know the exact like statistic, but I would say a high percentage don't actually even become a thing, right?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I would say like 70, 80% maybe even.
Let me tell you, when we did the Jody Harper PEI event, so it was a collaboration between Pain Plant and Mac. It was Jody Harper's tournament, or his. He did all the work when it comes to matchmaking and everything. So he was the main promoter, and it was at his venue. I just simply came in, set up a camera, had the banner refed, and had the Mac table, right? And so we did the rule system and everything. When you have somebody like Mark McPhail, who has been, one of Canada's top arm wrestlers for multiple decades, very well known, very well respected, he went into a match against Logan LeClaire and lost 3-0. Okay, wasn't a great day for him with the right arm, which is his dominant arm. Mm-hmm. Even he said afterwards, he's like, Ian, I love it. He's like, I love this concept. I love the table's comfortable, And I was really surprised because generally, if someone loses 3-0,
you're a little bitter.
Yeah, you're bitter, or you might not want to say, well, this is the best way to arm wrestle because you didn't have a good performance. He's all in. He's literally, and he's actually helping William with the logistics for Mac too. Like he's all in. He thinks it's the best table. He thinks it's the best rule set. He loves how ergonomic everything is, how fast things going on. And I was really happy for his endorsement. He went on a podcast and said the same thing.
Yeah. Well, I think he or somebody else made a couple of videos talking about it as well, right?
Did he? Okay.
I think so. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I really appreciate the kind words and the more, established guys who get on here and actually just say what it is that they think. I don't need gaslighting or anything that's not true. Just come, pull, and say what your true feelings are, and that'll actually help us more in the long run, because if there is something significant that needs a change, we will never know unless you tell us.
Yeah. And I think Mac, I don't know if we've mentioned it already, but it's more than just the table. It's the small rule changes that just expedite the way that matches get started, and you spend less time in the parts of the match that aren't really as interesting, right?
Right. Well, in today's day and age where people have very short, limited attention spans, it's nice that we can actually get guys up there and through matches in a timely fashion. Like, people don't believe, but we actually did 36 super matches. We started at 1:30, and I think we finished around 6:00.
Yeah.
And people are like, that's impossible, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you know,
I didn't believe you at first either.
Really?
I didn't believe you. Well, no, we did the first Mac event.
Oh, yeah.
You were giving me the timelines on when this stuff was going to get done. And I was like, there's no way you're going to. And you're like, no, because we have the setup. It's going to cut all this time out. And I'm a believer now because obviously we pretty much, I think we were bang on. Like, we were pretty much bang on all the times.
Even with the downtime, right? With the technical difficulties that we had on the live stream and stuff, we were bang on. But here's how come I had so much faith. When we did our pilot event, it was the best 3 out of 5. We actually had 6 matches because I made a bad call and I called winner, and they both agreed that that was a high pin call. So we just did it again. So that was the 6th match, right? There was adequate time between matches. And I remember the promoter wanted to talk to me after round 3 or something like that, or round 2. So there was a minute or 2 wasted just talking, and the whole thing took 11 minutes.
Yeah.
So I just divided that. I was like, okay, worst case scenario, the match goes 6 rounds. There's not going to be all this time in between matches. Promoters aren't going to be wanting to talk to me. I said, not all matches are going to be 3 out of 2. You know, some of them are going to be 3-0, 3-1, whatever. And I just factored it in, and, you know, I gambled, and it paid out. But now I have a real belief in it. I mean, 36 matches.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it was unbelievable. Guys, this one guy, what's his name? Chris Scott. He literally comes up to me after the event and he says, you know, Ian, I didn't like your table when I first saw it. I certainly didn't like the rule set. And I was actually upset to find out that this event became a MAC event. And he, as clear and as just like that. And I was like, whoa, like a hater in my head. You know what I mean? I'm like, wow. Yeah. Okay. And then he says, but after pulling on the table, after watching the event, and after looking at how quick everything was going and how smooth everything, he's like, this is the only style of arm wrestling that I believe could make it mainstream. Now, I'm not saying it is the only one. I'm saying that he said this is the only style of arm wrestling that he thinks could make it mainstream. So we literally converted a hater into thinking now this might be the only way to go about things. And so I'm very, very happy about that. I also think that Jason Constantini has a great team aspect. I love what he's doing. I think we have to take a deep dive and maybe do some collaborations with him, because I think we could totally do a tough Mac sort of collaboration. I think it would help both of our brands.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh yeah, he's really smart.
Yeah, and I like the team idea. I know there was a I forget the name of the MMA organization that tried it back in the day, but they tried something similar.
Yeah.
And I just like the idea of the tension that you can build when, like, you know, the teams are both tied, you know, like 2-2 or something like that. And then the extra pressure gets put on the guys at the end. And depending on how the guys are switching in, it might end up being one guy's more tired that normally would beat the other guy, but because he's, the other guy just shows up and he's able to,
It's a bit more than that too, because I think a lot of sports fans, they don't necessarily are super in love with the actual gameplay. A lot of them are nerds for statistics, and the team and what Jason Constantini is doing with his team thing, he has a point system, and it's not always just based on wins and losses. There's deductions of points. If you had a foul, say you win, but you had one foul, that was a deduction on the total possible points that you could win for your round. And then he has, if you flash a guy, it could be up to 7 points, right? Mm-hmm. If it's a war and you win, it's like 5 points. If anybody has any infractions or whatever. And then, so now these statistics, so he's literally, when he's got enough data, he will be able to tell you who's actually the most efficient arm wrestler. Based on his statistics. It's going to take a while to get that data, but with PremStream and all their data collecting and things, you guys could marry up and we could really do something that's so outside the realm of what anyone's doing. And hopefully I'm not giving away all these great ideas to these competitors of ours. But, you know, at the end of the day, I really do think we're going to start leading the charge in the new development of professional arm wrestling and new ideas.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think there's some other organizations other than the big ones that are like trying new stuff, right? And I think arm wrestling's at this point where I don't think the formula is set in stone, right? Like we can try new stuff. Like even I was talking to somebody like a few weeks ago and we were discussing how like the rule changes, and I'm trying to remember who it was, but they were essentially saying that like, no, arm wrestling is fine the way it is, and like, you know, sports don't change as time goes on. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like they're still doing minor changes in like hockey and basketball and shit to this day. Yeah. And like MMA and different, like there's different rule sets.
If you don't adjust, you die. Let's look at the model. Okay. Like this form of arm wrestling has been around for almost 30 years, and not to make light of East versus West, but that is the very best that we could hope for. WAL arguably was on par, maybe not with the level of competition in terms of how many athletes they had, but certainly with the ESPN and different things and the big money backer. But the truth is, we've been a failed enterprise for 30 years, and everyone keeps saying standardize. We need standardization, and I think it couldn't be further from the truth. Like I believe not one size fits all, and if you have a multitude of different styles and leagues, you can pick and choose as a competitor on the ones you want to do. You know what I mean? And I think if you really want to have fun arm wrestling, as just like for the love of the game, I think Mac's right there, because you will get the pull. Like, I mean, we have a very, very low end of match due to infractions ratio, right? Like it's crazy low. So everyone, you know, if you're strong enough or you're not strong enough, at the end of the day, you had fun because you really know that you weren't cheated. You know, at the end of the day, I think we can live with that as competitors. I was beat by the stronger guy or the better arm wrestler. A lot of times when you go to other events, that isn't always the case. There's always some sort of scenario or circumstance or foul or this or that, and you're left wondering, oh man, if I did this or that. I mean, obviously we'll have a little bit of that. Maybe you chose the wrong technique or whatever, and you will get the best opportunity to actually arm wrestle when the referee says go, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and here's the thing, right? Like as time goes on, if some smaller rule changes like have to be made, then they're made.
We're gonna do it. Like we are not married to this idea, guys. We're listening to feedback. We're testing and adjusting, and we just want to be on the side of right. Okay, that doesn't mean we are right. We're working and striving to be right, and we want to be on the most right side. And I don't think, and I've voiced this, I do not think it's on a WAF style arm wrestling table. That's me personally.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think it's ergonomic for what we're asking our athletes to do. A 7x7 elbow pad, super high density foam on the slipperiest material possible. And we say, don't you dare come up at all. Don't you dare come off the sides at all, or else we're stopping what could be the best banger going and a big screamer, but we just kill the momentum because of these little infractions. Something has to change.
Yeah. And I think like the running fouls, or like, you know, the way I have mixed feelings, right? Like, you know, when you see matches where somebody's about to get pinned and they pull a professional foul, right? I have mixed feelings about that, because part of me is like, okay, you're playing the game, you're able to get out of it, and you have, you know, two outs before you're in the deep end. But another part of it's like, well, you're kind of robbing the other guy a little bit.
We don't have a running foul system. All our fouls are stop fouls, but we have a running warning system, and I like that because, you know, if you touch the red is dead zone around the elbow pad, you know, if you touch it and you self-correct, we don't care because you knew that you touched it. If you're hanging out on it and the referee notices it, we warn you, and then you get back on, right? It's very difficult to tell if you're on the pad or not because of how level it is. But if you make that correction, we let you continue the match. Now, if you do a second where you're just not strong enough, some force is having you come off the pad, then that's your problem. It's a second warning. You no longer have the benefit of the doubt. It's a stop foul. You know what I mean? But I like that, that we have a 3 foul system, and we can use running warnings. So
yeah, no, I think so. So what rule set is Knuckles Up using?
I don't want to speak on their behalf, but I'm assuming it's very WAF IFA kind of deal, like very
more strict, I guess.
More strict, yeah. But I don't know. Like, I don't want to speak on their behalf, and I don't want to say anything that might not be true, right? And at the end of the day, I know that they do their very best to get very high quality arm wrestlers that have good reputation. I know that they have. They hire what they believe to be very competent refs, and they basically put on a good show, and they're doing what they can to forward the sport. Do I have creative differences than they do? Do I have different? Yeah, and guess what? I voice it to them. I'll send them messages, but it's on. We might just have a different way of doing business, but because I like them so much, I do give them advice. I tell them what I think, but it's up to them. They have their partners and their owners and their direction. But I like them so much that I don't feel like I want to hoard all this good information. You get what I mean? I don't, because I don't care. Like, I'm not married. Like I said, oh, Ian's right, and that's it. I just want, like, arm wrestling in general to be moving in the right direction. This is how I look at it. If someone comes up with a better, more ergonomic table than we have, I will switch that day.
Yeah.
Okay, I will switch that day. This is the analogy I give. You ever are in the fast lane and some old woman is driving slow in the fast lane, and you kind of you're stuck behind her, but then you move to pass her on the slow lane, and then she's moving faster so that you can't pass. I actually don't care, because now I'm moving at the speed that I wanted to go. Do you get what I mean? Yeah. So we're all moving forward. And that's kind of what I'm hoping that, we're doing. I actually believe now there's other leagues and other people talking about potentially building new tables. That's ironic to me. I for 30 years, there wasn't a lot of talk about it. Maybe Devon doing the freedom thing, but now all of a sudden we come up with a new table. Now other people are talking about, and guess what? I'm not jealous, and I'm not even making fun of them. I'm glad that people are having these conversations, and they're using their mind and their ideas, and maybe they got inspired by something we've done, and they're going to make it better. And at which point, me and you will look at each other and can we have a couple of those? And we're going to run our matches on these, because that's all. Whatever step is the best direction, that makes the most sense, that creates the most money, that allows us to pay our athletes, that generates the most interest. That's the direction that I want to go in.
But I do want to go over these matches, because there's been a few people now that have asked me to do analysis and predictions on matches and stuff. Sure. But I'm terrible. I'm terrible. So I've been saying that I'll get somebody else on, maybe you or Evan or maybe even Devon or something. We can kind of talk about it and kind of get some insights. But I'm just not at the level yet. I can, I know the moves in arm wrestling. I know what to do. I know how to arm wrestle. But when I look at two guys, I can't really put it together yet.
It's actually very difficult, even for us that have been around. I think the best gauge is if I actually got on the table with these individuals and felt what they had, then I'd have a better idea. But of course, strength levels at our level fluctuate so much. If I was to grab a person today and try to assess their strength level, it would be very different if they would have. I did the same thing in March when I was preparing for an event where I was much stronger, right? So it's very. You never know where somebody is in their training phase, And some people like Marcio Barbosa, who seems to be strong all the time, but we're not all like that. Some of us have ups and downs, and depending on, because life, most of us aren't full-time arm wrestlers. A lot of us are just, we pick a date, we say this is an event that we're going to train hard for, and we shoot. And normally, like me, I just got into promoter mode after my last event. The last event that I trained for, you get what I mean?
Yeah.
And gone are the days that I can just show up to an event untrained and just wax everybody. You know what I mean? I got humbled last weekend in Syracuse where I lost to Steve Walker, and I'm actually happy that it happened. Not initially, but it's kind of kicked me in the arse, and it said, hey, you're not the guy anymore. Like, you need to, Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have to train for success now.
Yeah. Well, and I think that just the levels obviously gotten a lot higher too, right? Like,
yeah.
And unfortunately, I feel like I've mixed. Oh, you know what? I'll get to that after. Let's just go over some of these matches. You good with that? Yeah. So we'll start at the one side. So Ryan Bowen against Andrei Sharkovich. So I just found out about this Andrei guy the other day. Like, Devon was essentially explaining some stuff about him. And the guy's like a physical phenom, right? Like, the guy looks like he looks like an X-Man.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
And Ryan Bowen, I guess he's kind of on an up tilt right now. But like, from a physical standpoint, like, he doesn't seem like he's like that guy's level. Right?
So I have limited knowledge on his opponent. And based on that, I'm going to say that the arm wrestler. Is this guy an actual arm wrestler, or is he just an X-Men who,
No,
has he been doing it a long time?
Yeah. Devon said he's really good. He's really good. A lot of the guys at the club actually picked him to win.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm going to go with Ryan, but obviously based on no real, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Last time I saw Ryan, he was going life and death with Evan Burgoyne. So he's come a long way since that time, at the end of the day, I really don't have a comment, but I'm going to go with the puller that I'm familiar with. So I'm going to say Ryan.
So Ryan on that one. And then the other one we just talked about, Marcio Barboza against Jordan Sonev.
Wow. My heart says Marcio. My belief in his strength, speed is Marcio. I don't know about Jordan. He looked mega strong. He went through pork chop really easily. He's a bigger guy than Marcio, I believe. And there is a good chance that Jordan wins. But like, of all my heroes and favorites and stuff like that, Marcio is the coolest. I love his style of arm wrestling the most. Like,
he seems like a good dude. He seems like a good dude.
He's like, he's cut like from if he's not Christian, I'd be very surprised. Like, he is this, there's something about him. Like, he's a good family man. He's a hardworking guy. And he stays in shape. I saw him working out the other day. He was doing like chin ups in the plank position. Like, he's old as hell too.
Like his legs
up, and he's just pumping off. I mean, he's such an inspiration. Like, and he's just cool. Like, he just has and he's not, why he's cool? Because he's not even trying to be. Do you know what I mean? Like, some people are trying to be cool.
Yeah.
He's not. He's just like, I'm a badass man.
Well, and he's got a pretty savage name too.
Yeah.
Like, that helps. That helps.
Anyway, he's my favorite to watch arm wrestler. I actually get excited. It's funny because I've been a professional for a while, and it's funny to say that I still have. Like, a lot of people say, they grew up with the John Brzenk and everything. And I did too. I thought he was great and everything. But when Marcio gets on, something is about to go down. Like, there's an explosion about that. Very similar to Matt Mask. I like Marcio because he's like a little bit shorter than me. And he will take on the giants. You know what I mean? And like,
he's jacked too, though.
Yeah, super jacked, fast, and just a really good dude. Like, I honestly feel like, I mean, I'm not just gassing him up because I want him to pull Mac either. I know I said, but like, when first time I met him, he was just super nice to me when I was like on the up and coming,
Yeah.
like when I was an up and comer at a Mike Gould Classic, and he talked to me, and I was just like, man, this is Marcio. In my head, I'm like, this is Marcio Barroso. Like, he's fucking awesome. You know what I mean? And so a huge respect for Marcio. I think if he ever gets a match on a Mac table, he'll fall in love with it based on his pulling style. Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot of the things that have plagued, if elbow fouls weren't as strict as they've been, Marcio might be one of the most successful arm wrestlers of all time. He has lost a tremendous amount of matches based on stupidity, not his stupidity, but the stupidity in the rules, like
the system
of the system.
Yeah.
He's you know what I mean? But like he wants to give a good show. He wants to explode and show how powerful he is, you know? And the rules are like, nah, you know, not that much, because if you come up, you know what I mean? So it's our rules, like I've said, you know, I think are more conducive for Marcio.
Yeah. So you got Marcio. I see, this is the only one that maybe I have a bit of an opinion on, and the only reason is because I've talked to Curtis, right, after he pulled Jordan. Mm-hmm. I've talked to Devon after he pulled Jordan, and I talked to Matt Mask after he pulled Jordan. And even who did Jordan pull in Ireland?
Was Sanders or not?
No, that's where Curtis pulled him, was in Ireland. Yeah.
But he pulled Sanders too, I think.
Could be, yeah. But I don't know Sanders myself, right?
No. But I understand why people would go with Jordan. I'm gonna go with Marcio because my heart says so, and I know he's capable of.
Yeah,
I know he's capable.
Got it. He's got it. I know
he's capable of beating him, right? And it's just, where is he in his top form? It will need to be a top form Marcio to win, and I'm just saying, I believe he's there. I think he's gonna do it.
Yeah. So how old is Marcio right now?
I actually don't want to speculate, but he's older than I am.
Yeah.
He must be in his 50s. Yeah.
Think so? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He looks good for his 50s though. He looks good.
Listen, he looks good for any age. When you got a body like that, like, who cares? You know what I mean? His biological age is not 50. Let me tell you that.
Yeah.
You know, I look like 100 pounds of chewed bubble gum.
Don't say that.
My biological age is much older than Marcio's.
So so there's that one. So you got Marcio. And again, I think just because of what people have told me from Jordan, everybody said the same thing. Like, I don't think I've ever felt anything like this before, right? So the other one, so this one's interesting. I don't really know a lot of the other guys, unfortunately, on here, but I know where they're from, but I've never seen that. I believe so. Jason Merlo against Jongming Kyung, I guess that's how you say it.
Yeah.
Is that the dude from that like Top 100 show or Physical 100 or something?
No, I'm not sure. And you know what? I know that I look at Jason Merlo as someone who's on the come up. You know what I mean? Like, he very athletic, well-spoken, great athlete. I'm unfamiliar with the other guy. So I'm going to be a homer on this and say Jason.
So we got those guys, and then we have Matarangi against Toshiku Shishido, if that's how you say it.
And that's interesting that Matarangi has another event. He went.
Well, this is right hand. I think the other one was
left-handed.
I think the other one was left.
That's quite the that's a warrior spirit right there, right? Like, come to Canada, take an L to Ryan Espy, and then a week later go to New Jersey and try to take on I'm going to go with he's New Zealander, right? Like, he's from New Zealand. I think that's
New Zealand. Yeah.
I'm going to go with him. Based purely on that, I'm a fan and I want the best from him. And I think that, taking back-to-back matches a week apart has got showing a lot of warrior spirit. So I'm going to go with him.
Yeah. And I've got to meet him and chat with him when I was in Ireland. Such a cool dude.
Yeah.
Like, but here's the thing. I think he is probably the biggest human being I've ever seen.
Really?
Man. Okay. So when we were going to Ireland, and I knew of him, but not I didn't know him obviously personally, but like, I knew who he was. And so when I was getting picked up, when the van came, he was sitting in the back of the van, and he took all 3 seats in the back of the van.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Like he's Levon's size?
I can't compare him to Levon. I've never seen Levon in person, but he is one of the like just widest, thickest human beings that I've ever seen. Like I remember literally, and he's super chill, super quiet. I was like, hey, nice to meet you. He's like, yeah, nice to meet you. Yeah, like super laid back, but like just massive.
I'm a fan.
Massive human being. Massive.
I'm a fan. I hope when we can get him on a card. I like him.
Yeah. No, he's a super cool dude. So, I don't know much about the other dude, but I've met him, and again, like I said, one of the biggest human beings I think I've ever met. So I guess the next one here is James Wall against Craig Tullier.
Oh, I got Craig.
Really?
I know I sound like such a homer, right?
Yeah.
I'm picking everybody that I know, but I mean Craig. Oh my God, like he. You know how Arnie aged as the Terminator? I think when it's all said and done, he's going to have a metal like skeleton. Like Craig's awesome. Like he's, I don't know. His joint, he reminds me kind of like Todd Hutchings in that he's just got these strong joints, and his will to win is up there with anybody. So you have to kill him to win.
So who against, so Craig Tullier versus like Rob Vigent, who would you have in those two? Because I think that's the only one that
honestly,
I know that they've recently.
Honestly depends on, and forgive me, Craig, but I really do see it this way. It really depends on what kind of mental state and version of Rob. Rob is one of those guys that could dust up the super heavyweights if he was focused. If he trained like a professional and dedicated himself, he's just like, you can't be more perfectly built for the sport than he is. He's as long from elbow to fingertip as Devon, and he's 6'2". Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? And his hands are enormous, and he's just built perfectly for an arm wrestler. But you know what they say, hard work beats talent when talent refuses to work hard.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm not saying that Rob doesn't work hard. I'm sure when he chooses to, he's focused, he can grind it out. So if I was to say who would win today, I think Craig would. Today.
Okay, so that's interesting, because that's the one that I know that, James Wall, he arm wrestled Rob Vigent Jr. in Ireland.
Yeah.
And I might be misremembering this, but I think he got the first pin, right?
James Wall did, yeah.
Yeah. So I think he got the first pin on Rob, and then Rob adjusted, and then obviously took over.
So I could see that sort of being the scenario again. I could see maybe Craig getting caught and but adjusting. But when it comes into deep water, Craig wins.
Yeah, I think so. Okay.
Craig. I think you would find it very hard for me to bet against a ready. And I don't mean ready as in like RVJ takes gear, because we all know his stance on that. He is a clean athlete, but ready mentally is mostly his calling card, his mental state.
Yeah.
Is he on? If he's on his game and he's fired up, fucking watch out. Yeah, I've seen him like in WAL events, and when he gets fired up, I remember I didn't think he was going to beat Nicholas Nanestad when they had a match in the WAL. I didn't think so. Nicholas came in looking like they call him the steel draft, and I was like, oh man, RVJ's fucked. You know what I mean? And RVJ won that.
Yeah, he came back. Yeah.
I don't think it was. I can't even remember if it was close or not, but I just remember being very impressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got you know what? I'll make a pick on this one. I'll go with James Wall just because I met the dude. He just seems cool.
Yeah.
He seems like a good
I think
dude.
It's gonna be a bad day for James.
Yeah.
Yeah. Craig's a man.
So then I guess the last one I have on here is Mario Tabakis against Palaman Dimitrov.
I don't know the Dimitrov, and since he has a trough name, those guys are generally pretty good.
He was in Ireland too. I got to meet him. Yeah. He was there with
who did he pull there?
I'm trying to remember who he pulled.
It was a British guy.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I know he was there.
Was it Jamie Staken? What's the weight category?
Yeah, you know what? It might have been Jamie Staken. Maybe it was, yeah, because he was there with Jordan, and both those guys were like super stoic and like because I was doing the. I don't know if you remember seeing the event, but there was a huge video screen that we had like a bit of like a little mini interview. We tried to get them to talk shit a little bit, and neither of those two guys would talk any kind of shit. They're just like, yeah.
Oh, well, whatever.
Yeah, but it was cool because like when they'd come in and like it's like, yeah, I'm here to face this guy. It's like, yeah, and I would win. You know, but it was like that's what those guys were there for. They were there, they arm wrestled, they destroyed, and then they just kind of walked out. Right? It was like they were like assassins sent in to like take guys out almost. You know?
Yeah. If Mario is the Mario, I think he has. I can't really see the picture. The last name. I don't remember like what the last name was, but if he was the Mario that was in the last Knuckles Up, he was pretty game. So I'm gonna give it a 50-50. Do I have to pick? I'm gonna go with the Russian or the Russian sounding last name. Let's say. What's it from? Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think is he Russian? I think so. Well, from that area, anyways. From that area,
probably some sort of ex-Soviet bloc country. You know.
Yeah.
I don't want to call people from that region around the world Russian if they're not, because they might be sensitive with that. You know, because of what's going on.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. So I don't know. Overall, like, I want to see.
Is there not a female match?
And the rest? No, it got cut out.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That was the whole thing. Yeah.
I forgot. Yeah. That was a big problem.
That was the which sucks, right? Because that was a nice match too, right? That would have been a really cool one to see. Because Ursula's from Toronto, right? And she's awesome. Like she's great. Yeah. So it's too bad that she lost her match.
Yeah. It shouldn't happen. I don't want to get too political here, but at the end of the day, to be fair, I mean, they can, if WAF is taking certain stances and stuff, I'm not personally going to rock the boat and try to cause problems. But at the end of the day, I will hire whoever I want. I will use whoever I want. I will respect contracts. You know what I mean? If I can't.
The only issue that I really have is the match was on for a while, and then it was only said that they couldn't do it within like, you know, week and a half, 2 weeks of the event. That sucks, right? That sucks.
Yeah, it is horrible. At the same time, I wasn't privy to the inner workings of the deals and stuff like that. None of us
really know,
and
right?
I don't want to speak out of turn. I'm saying for MAC, we are inclusive. And if I have an IFA referee or WAF referee, or if I have band pullers, or I really could care less, because at the end of the day,
Max band.
Max
you
band,
said too
maybe.
Much. You're banned.
Yeah, maybe. Banned. But at the end of the day, I really, I don't need. It's not that I don't need WAF. It's just I don't let them. They're not a governing body of mine, and I'm going to do business how I see fit. And I'm about inclusion, all race, all creeds, all styles, all religions, all arm wrestlers. Okay, and if they need to take action against me because I choose to be inclusive, then that's on them, and I'll just have to adjust. But at the end of the day, they need to understand one thing. The real market in arm wrestling is America. Okay. And we're here. Yeah. We are here. And if we get on mainstream, if we become the popular, like Knuckles Up and us or whoever, we will start developing our homegrown heroes, and people will start following our athletes. And as we grow as a business and we make more money, understand that those athletes that they have over there, they might jump ship and come join us. Okay. And I'm not trying to start anything. I'm just I'm being like factual. The truth is, you get more, attract more bees with honey. Okay. And I am not in the business of saying I'm holier than thou, I'm more important than this person or whatever. If we can make a match, if someone says no, I can't be on MAC because I've been instructed to not, that's fine. But understand this, we are moving forward. We're going to grow. we're going to be a very attractive commodity eventually.
For sure.
And,
yeah.
And so it's better to play ball with us while we're nobodies, because we'll remember, we have long memories. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, I want to be inclusive, but don't tell me to go fuck myself and then expect me to come back with a bouquet of flowers and say, hey, you know what I mean? We might have something to say about that. But at the end of the day, I feel bad for the athletes because they're being dictated to, right? And everybody should be able to, if you're under contract, if you chose to sign a contract with a particular league that makes you exclusive, well, you have to live with that decision. That's you, no one asked you to do that. You know, if you chose to do that, that's on you. Right. I also believe if you signed a contract and it is for a particular arm, then if you're not under contract with that particular arm, then they should leave you alone to compete anywhere you want, make extra money with your non-contracted arm. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And WAF and anybody else should allow them to do that. Do you know what I mean? Because that's what being honorable is. Like, my contract is for this specific thing, and I can do what I want with what I'm not under contract for. And I think, you know, they should honor that. Because I really know that there was something with the Georgi Svetskov, and again, I wasn't privy to what actually happened, but it's sad. You know what I mean? He should have been able to arm wrestle with his off arm, and if my opinion on this causes Mac to get banned, so be it. Arm wrestling is going to be here for a while. We know, just here in Ontario, the grassroots level, we have some guys in the pipeline that are going to be killers, and they love Mac. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, look, Ottawa, 6'9" black dude, you know, John, like he's going to be
John's already beast. He's already,
you know,
beast. Oh,
and
my
he
God,
wants to be part of Mac, and we're going to treat him like a professional. And tell me where that guy's going to be in a year or two. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and
sure.
you know, so the point is, guys, I recognize that there's a lot of good arm wrestlers that might not be available to us as Mac, but it's, at this point, nobody's really famous other than Devon, so it's really irrelevant.
And you know what? Actually, I think is a really up and coming market that a lot of people are looking past is India.
Oh, I'm not. I want to work in India and do something. I've spoken to the owner over there, and he's actually from Brampton. We lived not too far from each other at one time.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
cool.
It was really, really crazy. He's a super good guy, and I'd love to bounce off some ideas. And obviously, it's growing. It's probably the biggest league in the world, really, if you talk about just in pure numbers.
Well, not just that, but they had that one event there last year where I think they had some big sponsors.
It's called the Panja. Yeah. I actually.
And I think was it Sony? I think Sony put like $2 million into it or something like that.
Good for them.
I don't remember the exact number, but it was something high like that. It was like either $1 million or $2 million that they put into the event.
Listen, I when I had sponsors for an event that I was going to put, it fell through. But one of the things was I was going to try to get Mazahir against Umesh and have like the top Indian in the world kind of match. And we spoke with the Pro Panjway guys. You know, I forget the name. I really apologize. I was going to open up my phone and show you that.
Dude, we should talk to Umesh. We should get Umesh on the next card anyways.
Yeah, well, we should do a lot of things, but we take one step at a time and we build. Like, I would much rather under promise and over deliver than over promise and under deliver. Okay. I think we're building at the rate that's sustainable to us, right? That doesn't allow us, we're not over leveraging ourselves, and we are growing at a very nice rate. I'll tell you, I'm biased, but we have the best clothing brand, period. We have the best logo. We have the best, like, I'm biased, but I don't think anything is as cool as us right now when it comes to. Like,
I honestly, I think the Mac swag looks sick. It looks so sick.
We've sold over 1,000 items, and we've had one event.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
No, this stuff, maybe I should have worn my instead of the PremStream.
PremStream's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
It's good because it's good, but
But I do like the stuff, man. Actually, I gotta talk to you because my wife is she's begging me for one of the hats, but there was a particular color. I forget what it is now.
is it like the cream color one or
I think so. I think it was that one. Yeah, yeah,
that's a big one.
yeah. But she's like, why didn't you get me one of those? Why didn't you get one of those? I'm like, relax, like take it easy. Like I know it looks cool, you know.
Yeah.
But she's like, and she's not like a sports brand type person, right?
Look,
She's into horsing stuff.
Yeah.
And that's about it. Horse equipment.
Let me tell you something.
And Mac, apparently.
If I had the ability to snap my fingers and take care of all the orders as they came in or people that DM'd me, we'd have probably 3,000 items sold. The problem is because we're not rich, we can't keep this crazy overhead. You know what I mean? And we sell and we grow as we go. Like we roll our profits, we then buy more stuff, and you get what I mean. To sit on thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of merch because we don't know if our market dries up. Like you know what I mean. Like I believe in ourselves, but I think we're doing it right. We will like this next order is actually our biggest order that we've ever done. Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, that. We've invested a few $1,000s in this order, but it's because it made sense because we're moving it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which is wild, right? Because like you look at all the different events that are going on.
Yeah. I don't think anybody has sold as much gear as we have, and has only had one event. And on top of that, we sold a shit ton of merch before we had an event.
Yeah. Because the stuff looks cool, right?
Well, that's it, right?
And if you look at like any event that's like a tournament that's being filmed or whatever that I've noticed,
yep.
There's always some Matt guys walking around the background, right?
And there's so many promoters that want to jump on board and be part and do collab, like Steve Fernandez, Brian Parliament. He left Armfinity, by the way. And now he's a free agent and he wants to do a promotion called Through the Fingers, which is like his podcast. And I don't know if you're down with this, but I'm certainly willing to help that guy in any of his endeavors because he's a super nice guy. He loves arm wrestling. He invests his own money. He does everything, and he loves Mac. You know, so anybody that's willing to scratch our back, we're willing to scratch yours. Guys out in Texas and Nevada, they have a league out there that they want Mac tables. It's difficult because you've seen the size and how durable and heavy our tables are. It's done for a purpose. And for us to ship it out there, it's going to cost a bit of money. So when we're capable of doing stuff like that, then we'll address it. You know what I mean? But in the meantime, we just got to grow with what we've got. And I'm really excited about the future, my friend.
Yeah, no, like, because again, even in the States, like there's I think it was like the 98 event that just happened the other week. And it was last weekend. Yeah, last weekend, I think the 98 event. And I remember just going.
Was that Kentucky?
I don't know where it was.
I know John Terrian said he competed in Kentucky last weekend. So
okay, maybe it was there.
It was that? Okay.
But I jumped on the live stream just periodically just to kind of see what's going on. Mm-hmm. And every once in a while, I would see either some guys in Mac swag on the table or just like walking across the background, right? And it's like I don't know. I don't see a lot of East versus West. Like people wearing East versus West branded stuff. You do see some, but not a lot.
Yeah. I'll tell you, they're upping their game.
Their new stuff
looks good. Like I mean, Engen put out a post of his hoodie, and it's sharp.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, one of the biggest. A lot of people say, some mean things about Engen, and he's this and he's that. I'll tell you, Engen. Personally, how he's treated me, even though he still has to hold me to an account, like we are competitors and stuff like that, and he's not just going to loan me his contracted athletes and stuff like that. But you know what he did do? He treated Andrea and I like kings and queens when we got there. He gave me free tickets. He gave a free deck of cards, a strap, a free jersey. He really treated us like great, and I gave him one of our Mac polos. And I was talking to Paul Lynn, and he's like, dude, I'd be very, very surprised if Engen wore it, because I've given him shirts and he's never worn it anything on his podcast. And his very next podcast, Engen got on his podcast wearing the Mac Polo. And I was like, man, okay. So right there and then, you clearly see that he is for representing arm wrestling as a whole. It's just what he is allowed to do.
Yeah.
It's not all on him. A lot of it's being dictated.
Yeah.
That's as much as I'm going to go on that, because I don't want to pretend that I'm in the know more than what I've said. So I'll leave it at that. And, people can have their opinions. They can hate me for sticking up for Engen. They can do whatever they want. But at the end of the day, I'm not for banning. I know Engen has had to do this, but he has his reasons. So we don't see eye to eye, and I won't say, oh no, he's great because of this.
Yeah.
If it's not true, at the end of the day, I have my personal feelings, and but at the end of the day, I am not going to tell Engen how to run his own business.
Well, and I think what it is Engen's a very like emotionally driven person, right? Yeah. And I think that's part of the reasons people love and hate him, because like if he gets pissed off at somebody, like he lashes out publicly, right? Like he'll ban like random people in the chat that like half the people are trolls online anyways, right? Yeah. But because he's like an emotionally driven person, he speaks his mind on certain things, and then maybe sometimes that drives his decision making a little bit, which is, it's bad and it's good, right?
Well, I also would like to caution you on this. Engen is trying to filter out a lot of nuance in a second language.
Of course. Yeah. Of course. Yeah,
so there's a lot of jokes and sayings and nuance that he takes offense to because he doesn't understand, right? So when you read it word for word, if you're not given like the contextual like part of it, then it looks really bad. And so he loses his mind, right? And then people are like, man, why can't he take a joke? Because he didn't get the joke. Yeah. He didn't get the joke. And maybe his culture doesn't allow him to think that these kinds of things that are said are very funny, and that you might have a spiritual sort of, so I take Engen, I try to look at it from a bigger perspective. Do I think he's been wrong on things? Absolutely. Do I agree with everything he does? No. Do I think Engen is a net positive for arm wrestling? Yes. Now, is that statement controversial?
For sure it is.
Is that statement controversial? Are there people out there that think he's a net negative? Absolutely there are, because he might be doing things that directly affect them in their businesses and stuff like that. But I can't look at that. I have to look at the whole, and the drive, what he's done with East versus West, the production and getting people out there is amazing. And now we're all trying to play catch up to what he's doing, essentially. Yeah, for sure. Now, do I think that's the model that's going to take it to the next level? If Engen was sitting here today, I would tell him to his face, I don't believe it is. I think it's too. This is how I look at East versus West. With all due respect, it's an amateur rule system that has been placed amongst professional athletes, and the two don't marry up very well. Okay, there's too many matches that end in disqualifications where they don't need to be. They need to change certain things for the sport to get to the mainstream. Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah. No, if his job is to keep the integrity of what already exists, then sure, he has the model. But because if I believed that East versus West was the model that was going to get us to the next, then I wouldn't be doing MAC. I wouldn't change the table. I wouldn't change it because I would be like, well, it already exists, you know? But even with all the great athletes there, and I just don't see it. Now, I really hope that when Engen hears this, if he hears this, that he takes this from a perspective of love. Do you get what I mean? Only yes men and liars will tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah.
And he might even look at it as like, why is Ian talking this kind of thing? Like his business is here and we're up here. It's because I'm looking at it from an arm wrestler perspective, not just a business owner, right? I'm looking at what drives me nuts, what has driven me nuts for 20 years, and what I believe are the reasons that we haven't become broken into mainstream, right? So I obviously have a fundamental difference in opinion and in philosophy as Engen and other people that like the WAF style of arm wrestling. So I love what he's doing. He is a complete net positive for arm wrestling. I hope that he can continue to grow and take it to as high as he possibly can. I respect him. I support him. At the same time, I see a different avenue and a different vision. And we talked about this too. If people say it's so different from traditional arm wrestling, well, if people really have a problem and we need to adjust, I'll just call it arm grappling. It's a new sport.
Yeah, there you go.
Do you know what I mean? And we don't even have to change our acronym because it'll be arm grappling. So MAC, Major Arm Grappling Championships, at the end of the day. But no, Engen's a net positive. I love what he's done. There's only two atmospheres that were on par with each other. I think East versus West edges it a little bit, but I've never seen a reaction quite like Devon stopping Levon from 1,000 people, except at a smaller scale because the venue size was different. But I remember when Mike Gould stopped and beat Richard Lupkus. It was the same sort of like everybody collectively standing up and screaming, and there was no set of eyes that weren't on those two athletes. Every single set of eyes were on Devon and Levon and Mike Gould and Richard Lupkus. Yeah.
I wasn't there in person, but I think me and Reagan were on the way to Toronto to one of Umesh's event.
Yeah.
And that match came on, and we literally pulled over on the side of the road because I'm not driving and watching this. Like, get out of here. So we sat in like a little like a quickie parking lot, and we watched.
You're talking about Devon and Levon?
Devon Levon, yeah.
I was there in person. It was bananas. What a great, like, Turkey was amazing. We were real tourists when we went there. Like, Andrea's like, listen, we could just fly in there, watch the event and fly out, or we could do what the athletes are doing, come in a week early, travel, see all the sights and sounds of Turkey, taste all the food. We're foodies, and we just had a great time. And I got to bond a bit with Engen, and I hope when he hears what I have to say that he sees it as coming from a perspective of love. Like, I do wish him all the best. You know what I mean? But again, we have obviously difference of opinions, because if we didn't, I would be just doing the same thing as everybody else and following WAF rules. And I think it's a failed system when you're talking about has it gone to mainstream popularity, and no one can convince me that the current state of arm wrestling has made it to mainstream popularity. There's been one athlete, and it's Devon.
Well, there's a couple, I think.
No, there's a couple of athletes that have broken the mold, but when we say made it, it's Devon. And then now, Schoolboy, and there's a few, like some of the other athletes that were in different sports that have jumped, like Larry Wheels and stuff like that. But when we talk about, who is bringing eyes to arm wrestling that are from multiple walks of life and different avenues, there's no question that Devon Laird is the best asset for this. You know what I mean? But guess what? Devon is one person, and he's getting older, and eventually he's going to have to take different roles. And who is going to be the next Devon Laird? And I believe that guy is going to be a MAC arm wrestler one day.
Yeah. As it should be. But yeah. So outside of arm wrestling, so when you first started arm wrestling, did you meet Evan like early on?
When I first started, no, I was already a veteran by the time I met Evan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You want to hear the funny story, right?
I want to hear. Well, if you got a couple of funny stories, I know. There's a few.
So
right?
I've heard Evan talk about like this random arm wrestler that he first met, that he couldn't do much with, and that got him interested in the sport. Well, that arm wrestler was me. Okay. And basically at the time I was pretty jacked. I was, established, and he was strong and he was known as a fighter and a tough guy. Right. And I said, well, if you're so strong, of course I knew what was about to happen. Right. I said, let's have an arm wrestle and you can grab my 2 fingers and all you got to do is pin me. And he couldn't. So imagine, like, from going from a guy who couldn't pin my 2 fingers to what he eventually became. Like, he's obviously not the guy he used to be, but a lot of he has major health issues with his back and stuff like that. Like, it's kind of sad, but at the end of the day, his potential was great and his body failed him,
Yeah.
So we'll see if he's able to make a comeback or fix that, but he's in a lot of pain. So,
Well, there's a couple other funny stories that I've heard of you guys together. I just don't want to be the one to say them. Right?
Oh, I mean, I'm sure there's lots. I can't really think of them right now unless you do you have any prompts?
Some of them I don't think we're gonna say.
Okay, yeah.
But there was, I'm trying to remember
Where
exactly.
he tried to goat me into fighting.
There's been a bunch of those.
Yeah. So I'm not a tough guy or whatever, but I've always been one that if it's coming for me and there's no way out, I don't have the flight in me. I have the fight. So if I know it's coming and I can't get away for it somehow, like, diffuse it, I then just switch to let's fucking go mode. And he, always bragging about his mixed martial arts background and his boxing, and he says I can't throw a punch, and I'm like, yeah, but in my mind, I have shock and awe. That's the, I'm not saying I'm a great fighter, but anytime I get into a fight, I generally grab a person, put them on the ground, and I give them the option, like, this is not going to go well for you. You know what I mean? Like,
you're a big dude.
You're
a big dude.
And
just so everybody knows, Ian thinks he could head kick me.
Oh yeah.
I don't think so. I think I'm too fast. I'm too fast.
It's coming. The head kick. The head kick is coming. He has no idea how athletic I am for a fat dude, But there's some people out there that have seen some feats of athleticism from me, and they're like, "What?" You know what I mean? So anyway, you'll get your head kick. But Evan, so one day he's with his brothers. He's acting tough. He's under the carport. We got arm wrestling tables, and he's just jawing at me. He's like, "You want to fucking go?" I'm like, "No, I don't want to go." And he's just picking on me. And then finally, I don't know what it was that set me off. I'm like, "Yeah, let's fucking go right now." And I'm losing my shit. I'm like, "There's a front yard. Let's fucking go." And at that point, him and all his brothers just die laughing at me. They're like, "Oh my God." And I was so fucking aggravated. I did not want to fight now. Do you know what I mean? Like, now, no, like, you brought me to this point. I'm ready to go. No, that's not funny. We're not laughing. Let's fucking go. And the more I wanted to fight, the more funny it was. You know what I mean? So yeah. So I was goated.
Yeah, I think the first time I met Evan, he was pulling some weird shit like that too, where he's like kind of instigating the little shit between guys in the valley there.
He's a shit disturber.
Oh yeah, he is. Yeah, right away. Yeah,
beer
away.
Man, good old beer man. There's a lot of crazy stories, but I think a lot of them we really just can't talk about on a podcast.
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah, because I wanted to kind of bring him up, and I kind of think with the whole thing of like, yeah, I know, maybe just leave that out.
No. Yeah, I'll tell you, one of the craziest feats of strength I've ever seen from any athlete actually was Evan. And what happened was, it was pure adrenaline. You know, when they talk about like a woman lifting a car to save a baby, like, this is one of those kinds of moments. So his friend or cousin was really aggravating him and got drunk and was, saying all kinds of stuff. And I think his wife at the time, Julie, was pregnant, and she was coming up the stairs from the bedroom, and it was a split level, and they had to take off the side railing for some reason. And I think I was trying to stop him from just killing his cousin or whatever. I end up tripping, and I'm about to fall. You've heard the story? I'm about to fall into like death. You know what I mean? It was a good, 10 feet or whatever drop. And I'm not light, right? No word of a lie. Evan grabs the banister with his left hand, stops me dead in the air with his right hand, and puts me on the fucking stairs.
So you vouch for the story, though.
100% true. Okay. And his wife I would have landed on his wife.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because Evans told me this story.
It's true.
And I didn't believe it. I was like, there's no way. There's no way.
There's more witnesses too, because the door was open to the carport and people saw it. You know what I mean? And
here's the thing though, were you guys all sober?
No, I can't vouch for that. We were drinking, but the truth, and I don't know how far off the trip. Like, I don't know where my feet were in the air, or was I still standing? Was it still contact with the floor? But regardless, I was probably 360 pounds.
Yeah.
And he is on the stairs. Like, you would think, like, physics would say that if he tried to stop me, we're both going and we're both landing on his wife. He stopped me, pushed me over onto those fucking stairs. It was incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. See, too bad people didn't have, like, phones everywhere back then. Eh?
Look,
that was right on the verge, I think.
You could listen. There is no net benefit for me to tell a bullshit story on his behalf. Do you get what I mean? There's zero.
I know.
There's nothing. Like, he's a friend of mine, but at the end of the day, like, I don't like, telling a story where I'm like the damsel in distress and I'm the one, and I'm the one who's being saved by this guy, like, that's not cool. Right. So there's zero reason or motivation for me to tell a bullshit story on that. If there was cameras and there was some sort of, like, maybe it didn't happen exactly how that happened, time changed, but something freaky happened and he did put hands on me and he did stop me from falling, which is absolute truth.
And if the real story is not as cool, this is the better version.
Don't let a lie get in the way of a good story.
Yeah. What does Chael's son say? Yeah. Don't let the truth ever get in the way of a good story.
That's what it is. Yeah. Don't let the truth. Yeah, that's right.
So speaking of that, so you've got a bit of a wrestling background, I guess,
Amateur
right?
Wrestling, yeah.
Yeah.
I do. I was asked by my cousin if I ever wanted to do a gig with her in the WWE or for the WWE. I said, yeah, but right around when that happened, I was a bit long in the tooth in my age anyways. But she died, unfortunately.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Luna Vachon. But did you see the video I posted recently of my Uncle Paul being one of the first people to ever body slam the Giant?
I did see that. Yeah.
Isn't that
I did
cool?
See that.
And if you look
sick.
at him, I think in some ways I look more like my Uncle Paul than I do my dad. It's like, No, like him and I's body types are very similar, and he has a freakish amount. I mean, he body slammed the Giant. And if you watch it, it wasn't like, how they do where the guy kind of does this big hop and you catch him and then you body slam him. Like, it's like, he's there, he grabs him, he picks him up, he throws him down.
Well, yeah. But let's be serious. Like, no matter how much hopping Andre the Giant's doing,
he's not getting high off the ground.
Yeah, that's right. Like, that guy was like 7 feet tall or something.
Well,
right?
There's a lot of speculation on just how tall he was because I don't think he reached 7 feet. Yeah. There was a picture of him. He might have been out angled, but he was beside a 7'1" Kareem Will Chamberlain, and he was a few inches taller. Yeah. So he could have been like 6'10", 6'11", but it's not so much the height.
What's the girth? It's just a big dude. The guy's skull is probably like
that's it, right? Yeah. And he never stopped growing.
Yeah.
So by the time he died, how tall was he? You know what I mean? Because that was several years after. Yeah. He had a tumor on the pituitary gland, right? So his body was producing human growth hormone at an unnatural rate for the rest of his life. And he finally I think he had heart failure. The guy was drinking so much as a form of medication for pain. Like, he wasn't an alcoholic. He was doing it because it was either that or just kill himself with a bunch of pain pills. So, it's unfortunate.
Well, that seems to be a big thing in wrestling in those early days of MMA. Like, all those guys were doing painkillers, like, nonstop.
Yeah, right? I have a tremendous amount of respect for pro wrestlers, especially those that existed in my mother, my cousins, and my uncle's era, because they did it on pennies on the dollar. And they dedicated their whole life to it, and a lot of them didn't make it.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing.
It's why I didn't. Like, a lot of people say, why? You're athletic, you're big, you can move. Why didn't you do it? Well, part of it was the lifestyle I wasn't in agreement with. And not that my mom was doing crazy stuff, but I'm just saying, like, I heard stories. I was privy to things, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing is I didn't want the free pass. Like, I knew, my mom being the wrestling queen, like Luna said it in an interview, she's the greatest female wrestler to ever live. Like, my cousin while with other female wrestlers, said my aunt is the best female arm wrestler or wrestler
Yeah.
that ever existed, and she was a great amateur wrestler. Like, I heard a story. I obviously cannot confirm this, but from my understanding, a family member once told me that my mom went from the age of 12 to 21 in amateur wrestling without losing to another female.
Yeah.
So, and basically someone said the same thing that they said about Andre the Giant. If wrestling was real, my mom would have been the only woman because she would beat you like a man. You know what I mean? She was the youngest of 13, raised on a farm. All her brothers were at the YMCA learning wrestling and boxing and all these things. So they had to work hard. They had their sports were, and she was the youngest. So of course the youngest gets shit rolls downhill, so she had to fight and claw and scrape, and she just was one of these females that happened to be strong as a man, and that's just the way it is, and obviously my dad is a big strong dude, but he always credits my my natural strength to my mother's side of the family.
So would you ever consider doing like some sort of like celebrity, like one-off wrestling match or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I would do anything. I would want adequate time to train, to understand how to fall, do different things. I would want to work on yoga because I'm very stiff compared to my younger self. But I if I had the proper time to prepare, I would do pretty much anything. Yeah.
Because you know what I'd like to see? I'm just throwing this out there, okay? Maybe trying to do a little bit of manifesting.
Sure.
But I want to see Grippler versus Uncle John, in some sort of like chair or ladder match,
Yeah, we could do something as long as it's for pretend, okay? Like, as long as we're not getting out of
just
control.
pretend, throw him into some tacks or something. He's into that. He's into that.
He absolutely is. I don't like Uncle John's chances in a real fight, though. So
Hey, well, he's looking thick, boy, lately, though. Lately, he's looking thick.
I'm sure, but I'm different.
No, but yeah. Yeah. But no, I think something like that'd be fun. Like, that's an idea I had at one point, is what I think would be really cool is to do more like crossover events, right?
Well,
like
you talk about that. I haven't always been in agreement with you on certain ideas, but I'm really warming up to these cross promotion sports, and the fact that you have so many contacts with promoters of different sports, different boxing and MMA. And the fact that they're so interested in MAC. Like, I couldn't, like, initially it was just arm wrestling, but because MAC got exposed to them, they want us. Right, because we were so easy to set up in the octagon. Right, we set up our table. Took us 2 seconds. We had a super match. The whole thing took 11 minutes, and they were out of there. They fucking loved it. Weren't you impressed at how this MMA crowd was all about arm wrestling and how they were screaming and like friggin', like, wasn't that awesome?
Yeah, no, it was wicked, and even having the arm wrestling in a cage. Like, I think next time we do it, we'll have a better camera set up. Like, I have an idea of how we can improve the way that was like captured.
Yeah.
But I think just having the table in the cage, it just kind of makes a really cool atmosphere. I think.
It does. I don't think it's ideal for us. Like, if
no, you wouldn't want to do like every event that way, right?
I actually personally don't like. I know we have to do it sometimes, but I don't like having arm wrestling on a stage where the crowd is below. I think the best is like
inside
a pit.
Inside a pit.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree.
And that's we're as we grow and our budget increases, we'll find venues that can help facilitate that.
So have you seen what Karate Combat is doing and what the Craig Jones Invitational did?
Is that the surface where you can lean up on and fight from your back kind of thing? Like,
you can, but it's essentially a pit, right? So my understanding, I haven't seen like obviously other camera angles of what the venue looks like, but my understanding is the pit is kind of sunken in, and then everything else is kind of built up around it. So where the people are fighting, it's kind of like, with the exception of
like the Kumite, like the final match, But seriously, I could see that as arm wrestling. I think that's arm wrestling needs to be intimate. We need the crowd really close. They need to be able to see the sweat coming off the brow of somebody. There's a vibe that is, I can't explain. A great arm wrestling match that's been highly anticipated can calm a room to a silence right before, and the second it starts to actuate its potential, you had all these mice making no noise to the biggest roar that the biggest lion could make. You know what I mean? Like that explosion that was at Engen's event with Devon and Levon. That was insane. And I've only been a part of a few things like that happen like that, And when you're personally involved in something like that, or you win a very unexpected match, I'll tell you, when I beat Travis Bagent the first time, I lost my shit. I ripped my shirt off, and I had a tank top, of course, and I start screaming at the crowd. I'm like, I go, he ain't got shit, and nobody's getting through this arm and stuff. All I lost my mind, right? And and there was and the crowd was hyped too, right? Or when I pinned Mike Aiello and I started rapping a Too Short song, I go on and on. I can't understand how I last so long. I must have superpowers, And then yeah. You know what I mean? And it's so funny that. I just mentioned that because Rob Vigent called me the other day, and he actually said, "You know what? You are a great entertainer." And he brought up, he's like, the fact that I would dance against Tom Nelson in between matches, and when I'd win, I'd do a dance or something like that, and then a rap song. He loves that, right? And I think that's why our sport, we need more characters like that, because we need to build people need to give a fuck about who's on the table, right? And it's not just how good you are. People need to care about you, need the backstory. They need to, and you need to have some sort of personality to engage with people. It's unfortunate if you're a boring guy and, you're a great arm wrestler, but at the same time, even boring guys or quiet guys can find ways of being entertaining and tell their story. They just have to be willing. You get what I mean?
Yeah, you have to get out of that, because I think I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the guy was saying the thing that people are the most scared of is being embarrassed in public.
Yeah.
So I think there are a lot of people out there that they think that if they're going to act out or whatever, if it doesn't hit, then they're standing there kind of with their pants off sort of deal, right?
Well, the thing is you win some, you lose some. You have to be willing. Arm wrestling is very personal. A lot of people say it can be more personal than a fight, because when you get there, you're touching your opponent immediately and you're in breath. You don't have this walk across the ring feel out thing. You're in the ring immediately. You're touching your opponent, and it's very intimate. And then when it ends, you gotta, if it's a tournament, you gotta take that egg off your face and go sit the fuck down, you know what I mean? And just sit there and complain and sulk back there, but you got to get the fuck off the stage kind of thing, And a lot of people that embarrassing walk. I just did it. I lost his Steve Walker recently, and I was ashamed of myself. I wanted to hide. I was like, how did I lose to this old man? Is he awesome? Yes. Is he some people say he's the strongest natty arm wrestler in North America. That's what a lot of people are saying, and I'm very impressed. I think this is not a call out. If he ever wants to have a super match, I'm totally willing to do it.
So it's not a call out.
No, but do I think a trained version of me in the straps especially loses to him? No, I think I'd stop him center of the table. I really do. But I mean, you could say that's my opinion. And why would I be in arm wrestling if I didn't have a high opinion of my capabilities? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no,
and I'm not trying to diminish anything that he kicked my ass. He was the better arm wrestler, and I'm not taking anything away from that. But someone wants to set up a match, pay me a few dollars, take care of my things. If Steve Walker wants to have a super match, we'll say match 3 automatic auto strap, because I certainly want to see what happens when I'm tied to him, because I do believe I have a stronger arm.
And where's he from?
New Jersey.
New Jersey.
And
oh, you know what would be interesting?
if he's there, yeah, I would like to talk. Yeah. When we go,
yeah.
I would also want to mention that I have total respect for him, and this is by no means a like, I don't mean this in any type of disrespect. For me to even want to have this match, it's because he's lit a fire in me. Do you get what I mean? And I'm saying he beat me, and he was the better arm wrestler. I'm also saying I don't think he can do it again.
Yeah.
Give us a date, like, you know what I mean? And if he wants to prove me wrong, those, you know, like, entertain it, you know?
Yeah, but, no, I think it'd be good. And like, well, there's a few events that are kind of in between here in New Jersey that are happening all the time. So yeah.
And
maybe,
I'll tell you,
maybe
I would say third match auto strap, but I think for sure I would be bailing, you know, I would just, and then get tied to him, and then he can feel what that feels like, you know? I've trained since our match for this match. If it can, you know, if I was lucky enough to, like, I wasn't I'm stronger today than I was a couple weeks ago. And I feel like, cause it's just funny how, like, you just start doing your wrist curls again, and you can just feel the connective tissues and stuff like that. I'm also feeling the old pains again in the elbow and different things, but here's what it is.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this, like, I don't think I've ever trained as hard arm wrestling than after every time I lose something. Like, this is the thing about arm wrestling that gets me, right? Like, other combat sports, I would never say I'm, like, naturally good at it, but, like, there's just something that, like, clicked with a lot of different things where I'm pretty good at fighting, right? When it comes to arm wrestling, all the things that you naturally need to be good at arm wrestling, I just don't have them.
I'm the same way. As a super heavyweight, I guess if I could say the opposite, if I was like a 200-pound guy. I mean, I'm 6 feet. I have a good bone structure. But as a super heavyweight, this is certainly not the case. But I remember Evan telling me that I should have stuck with with wrestling because I have weird strengths. You know what I mean? He's like, I have my legs are very explosive. My, you know, when I did wrestle with him, he said something to the effect that I grabbed his elbow, and with one arm, I flipped his whole body around. And he said he'd never felt anything like that, you know, or something to that effect, you know. And he's like, you really had crazy potential for wrestling, which is obvious. I mean, you know, my uncle is an Olympian and a WWE Hall of Famer who still holds a record for being the youngest person to represent Canada at the Olympics in wrestling.
Yeah.
That he's still, like, he was at the 42 Olympics or 40 something Olympics, 1940, and he still holds that record. You get what I mean?
Well, you're just built like a thick dude, right? Like, you got big hands, big wrists. Like, you're just built to be strong, it kind of looks like, right?
Well, it depends on how you quantify big. I don't think I have big hands. I think I have, like,
thick hand, not long.
Yeah,
not long.
No, exactly.
You're just built thick, right? You're like big bones,
big
essentially.
bones, Like, I have a thick wrist,
and not in like the demeaning way when you're like, he's big bone, like the other.
big skin.
No. So, what do you think do you think this would be kind of interesting to have an event where you have two guys pinned against each other, right? Mm-hmm. And they compete in like 5 or 6 different like types of combat sports?
It depends. Are these are arm wrestlers?
I think it'd be cool to be arm wrestlers, just to kind of see how arm wrestlers would fare in other things. But
I agree. I think it would be entertaining. I don't think it'd be beneficial to the arm wrestler. I know that's not what you want to hear.
No.
And here's why. Mm-hmm. We're arm wrestlers, and our livelihood is our hands and our wrists. And we start doing other things with it, start smashing, breaking, you know.
Well, yeah, you do it in a safe way. But one thing I'll say is a big thing that I noticed since like doing arm wrestling and training arms a lot. And again, back when I was fighting, never did any arms. Like literally, I could have probably counted how many times I've done like an arm workout, right? But once I started doing the arm wrestling specific training, and then like hitting a punching bag and stuff, doesn't feel the same anymore. No, it feels like doesn't feel like I feel like I can still hit hard, but the fluidity is not there anymore.
Yeah. Well, your range of motion has decreased 100%. There's no way. If you look at, you probably have tightness in the shoulder, the elbow joints. I mean, I could show a demonstration right now. I don't have what Michael Todd and Devon have, but check this out. Like if I put my tricep on the table, I mean, there is significant tension in my elbow. I don't do King's move, and it hurts me when I try to force past my lock. But I do have a lock, right? It's about
and I think that just comes from the constant.
I'm not sure, honestly.
Well, I think it's when you're constantly pulling in.
Yeah,
these ligaments get like more. They just get tighter, right? You're always like contracting, and you're not ever letting it loose. You're always kind of playing in this motion, right? Like when you're actually arm wrestling a match, you don't really want to be like that.
I think it's something going on in the elbow joint that's preventing it. Like I feel like there's things in there, like, I might end up having to do what surgery like Devon. I think for sure in my left. I don't know what's going on with my left, but I really hope I don't know, physio or something can fix it and I don't have to go through elbow surgery. But, if I continue to push and get back on the horse as a professional arm wrestler, I will be handicapped. Like I know that my arm will eventually, I can feel it retracting and I know that it'll happen. And I'm not sure I want to be like that. You know what I mean? Like I want to be able to do regular things in life, So who knows? If I talk to the right people, do the right things with physio, I should be able to gain more range of motion and have like better body health, essentially,
Yeah. So, but going back to the multi-sport event.
Okay.
So what if you did something like, maybe like boxing, grappling, and then like arm wrestling or something, kind of tied together?
Are these, again, is this like just random people?
I don't know. I haven't thought this idea all the way through yet. I just thought it'd be kind of interesting.
So you've picked sports that, including arm wrestling, that are dangerous. And if you don't have somebody,
well, you can do those sports very safe, right? Like there's safe, like boxing, for example. You can do boxing very safe, right? You have very big gloves, and then you only do like 1 or 2 minute rounds, and you only do like 2 or 3 rounds.
Okay.
Right. And you do like quick stoppage rules, right? Like if somebody gets hit 5 or 6 times, like good unanswered, you kind of give them a break. You don't allow knockouts, essentially, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, how do you not, right? Like some people just, I don't know. Look, I'm not a pussy, men can do whatever the hell they want. It's just, I look at the long-term benefit to something like this. Would it be entertaining? Yeah. But I would need to know what the goal is. Is it just to be silly, or
we'll just have a fun event?
I mean, sure. Then have a fun, no problem. Like if guys want to do stuff like that, I think it'd be entertaining. Do I think it's sustainable for something like a league or something? No. No, I don't. No. But if it's just for fun, and Eddie Hall and Thor put on one of the best boxing spectacles I've ever seen, and they're not boxers, you know what I mean? But it was really cool that they jumped in there and they gave it their all. So I'm in support of these exhibition style things.
That's something I wish core sports did more of, because like at one point it looked like they were doing that.
It's perfect for COVID era, eh? Like they really tapped into a great market.
Well, they were taking athletes from all different backgrounds, and then they were getting them to do amateur boxing rules. Well, I think theirs was it was amateur, but like I think
it was they had no headgear. I think and they certainly knocked each other down.
I'm trying to remember what the rule sets were, but they didn't do 12 rounds.
No, but it was
10 rounds.
It was a very good match, actually. Yeah. It was entertaining. They both tried to take each other's head off. I had total respect. I've actually was more entertained by that boxing match than a lot of pro boxing matches. Like I've seen some duds.
Well, yeah. But I think I don't know. I think there is there's something interesting about seeing people that are like good at one sport compete against each other at a different sport. I don't know. I think there's something. I think there's something to that. Like I think
it'd be cooler with the younger men who are still in their athletic prime. You know what I mean?
Listen, I'm not saying get all the old dude arm wrestlers to do it. No. Like I'm not saying that at all.
Because I think arm wrestlers that are able to continue in their later stages have done so because they become masters practitioners.
Yeah, no, of course.
But to ask them to try to transition into something else at this stage, it could be dangerous. But if you're a 30-year-old man and you want to fuck around and find out, I'll go ahead. Here you go, man. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I think it'd be interesting. Maybe and because like I said, I've talked to you before about like a crossover event, like doing an event that's has part arm wrestling, part boxing, and it'd be interesting to see maybe if like you have a full card set up, maybe like 6 and 6 or something.
Sure.
But then have maybe one pair of the boxers do both, and then maybe one pair of the arm wrestlers do both, or something. Yeah. I think it'd be cool, right? I don't think there's anything to like super gain from it, but
I agree. Except I it's funny. I'm actually more afraid for the boxers trying to learn arm wrestling than the other way around, because it's just you get what I mean?
No, for sure. But and again, I think that's where you can't just let them do it cold. You'd have to kind of like
they'd have to be trained.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And if they were willing to do it, then
do it after the boxing match.
Yeah. But like sports and like, first of all, professional sports is entertainment. End of story. Full stop. And anything you can do that entertains the crowd, provided it's not hokey, provided that it seems legit enough to be considered real. Like if you stage a match and it's not in a sport that is not meant to be staged in, you can lose credibility right away. And
people know.
And people know, especially those who are in the know, like in that sport, and they will, and then it will spread and word of mouth will get around, and it can essentially be a death sentence to what you're trying to do, because
it can end an athlete's career, right? As soon as like there's some big like, boxing and MMA fights and stuff that have gone down in history as, known fake matches, right? Like there was
some accusations that the Floyd Mayweather McGregor fight was like that because of McGregor having such good success, making it to the 10th round, landing more punches on Mayweather than the previous 3 fights that he combined. Like, I don't know I think McGregor is a special athlete, and so I'm not going to say that was arranged, but there was speculation that was,
Yeah, and I think so that particular fight, I think 2 things happened. So I think one, I think Floyd carried him a little bit, right? Like I don't think he was going like as hard as he could have, because if you look at the first few rounds,
I think he was trying to gas him. He's like, I'll let him punch, I'll let him, but his legs will start to get heavy in the later.
Sure, but regardless of the reasoning why he did, like he didn't go as hard on him the first 4 or 5 rounds that he could have if he wanted to, right? So he was just kind of buying some rounds.
Probably was cautious too.
Sure.
Wanted to measure him, right? Because
for sure.
At the end of the day, if you watch Conor leading up to that fight, he was sleeping people with one punch, so he had to know what he actually had.
Different sport though.
I get it, but you don't know until you know. You don't know until, it's just like these predictions you've asked me to do. It's like I would have a better idea if I had pulled these guys in a practice, like just general strength evaluation,
But there is guys that in MMA gloves will sleep people, but with boxing gloves they just can't do the same thing. And a reason for that is it's more of a timing and speed thing. So with MMA gloves, if your timing's really good, right, you have a very small point of impact. Right. And if that hits on the chin, like you're literally talking about a really, really like a lot of power on like a really small piece of your face, especially if you're kind of moving in that same direction.
Nerve, that's like,
and there are guys, again, there's like Francis Ngannou, for example, right, where like you could put a 100-pound pillow on that guy's fist, like he's destroying shit, right?
Yeah, that's funny.
But yeah, so guys, there's certain guys that their timing is really good, And because of that sharp point of impact, with MMA gloves, they just sleep people. But then you put like bigger gloves on them, not quite the same thing. There's just something different about like getting hit with a boxing glove. Like obviously you can still get hit. Like if you get clipped right on the chin in a boxing glove, you can get that similar effect. But I think it's harder to do, right? And then there's something about the way that some guys hit, like Francis Ngannou, who just have this like just kinetic hammer. I don't know what you want to call it. Like these guys that just naturally have a piston.
So he got knocked out by Anthony Joshua. If Anthony Joshua was to wear MMA gloves, would you say that he would have a better punch than Francis Ngannou, or is it just again the crossover is different?
Hard to say. Like I definitely know. Well, and here's another thing about MMA that's a little bit different. In boxing, because you're allowed to again, you have more padding and more protection. Your hands, if you have really fragile hands, you're not going to do as good in MMA, especially bare knuckle, because there are certain people that hit really hard, but they have glass hands, right? And in a boxing fight, I think there's more tools to mitigate that versus an MMA fight. You still get wraps, you still get your hand wrapped a little bit, but it's not quite the same, right? So yeah, it's hard to say, but there definitely are. Obviously, there's guys in boxing when they hit hard. Yeah, you put an MMA glove on them, it's just gonna hurt more, right? Yep. I'm just saying, the guys in MMA when they go to boxing, that knockout power doesn't necessarily always translate. But I think if you go from boxing to MMA, I feel like that translates more, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
right?
It makes total sense.
Yeah. But so I don't know. We covered a bunch of stuff here.
We did. Was there anything you wanted to elaborate on?
I'm just trying to think.
MAC 2, potential dates, 21st of December. Working on a really nice card. And I won't say too much because nothing's been confirmed yet. But MAC 2's coming.
Yeah. So MAC 2, Knuckles Up.
Knuckles Up, yeah.
Saturday. So it's Wednesday right now. Hopefully by tomorrow this will be out. So hopefully I can get it out tomorrow. So yeah, 2 days away. Knuckles Up. We'll be in New Jersey, right? Yeah. The whole team's going to be there, right?
That's it, yeah. Yeah, JJ, Andrea, Matthias, and Ian. The 4 Musketeers.
Yeah.
If there were 4.
Was it 4? Was it 3 or 4?
I think it's 3.
Yeah. I guess depending which version you watch.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Well, awesome, man. Thanks for coming out, buddy.
Yeah,
Much
you're
appreciated.
Welcome.
You're the man, buddy.
You too, buddy.
All right.
Thanks.
Well, I guess that's it. We'll fucking talk soon.
Bam.
Stay powerful.